Okay. All right. Very good. Well, welcome everybody. It's quite a showing. We really don't get this group of attendees to our meetings quite often. So, but it's 7 o'clock, and we having a quorum present. We will call the meeting to order. Oh, by the way, did you admit?
Yep, Jill.
Jill? Okay.
Yep, she's on.
So let's start our meeting with a roll call.
Mazzella, present.
Elizabeth Kelly present.
Al Sweet, present. Joe Hunt, present.
Steve Callahan present.
Emily McCabe present.
Peter Michelson present.
And Jill?
Jill Rafter participating remotely.
Okay, great. And I Ashley will join us at 8, she said, remotely.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for her. Yep. Okay. We have a very busy agenda tonight. We have some minutes we got to approve. We will talk about 3 departments' budgets for 2027, the veterans, the facilities, and the school department. And then we will talk about a potential article for the school district, bookworms, K-5 literacy program. We'll discuss some modeling scenarios for an override, potential override modeling and related tax impact. And then we will talk about the scheduling of our warrant committee article start ourselves. So, and we'll get liaison updates from the school building committee and capital budget committee. So I think my suggestion is that normally we have a busy schedule. We are a working committee, so we typically we have a process for getting comments from the public, and that is typically at our warrant hearing. So tonight, if there are questions after, I guess, the school department presentation, we will take those, but comments we probably should leave to the warrant hearing. And then if you could limit it to no more than 3 minutes per person, that would be helpful. But we really want to spend our time as a committee understanding the budgets. This is our only time we have to understand the school budget, and it's the biggest budget in the town. So we're going to dedicate a lot of time to that. We'll have a lot of questions, and that's going to be our approach, I guess. So I think what we should do is probably do veterans and facilities first, so they can leave. They don't have to stay around. So why don't we start with Ian Rogers, veterans.
Hot seat.
How are you?
Good. Sorry, I had to reschedule from last time. Wobble just ended up having their version of this meeting on the same exact night at the same time.
I know. Isn't that funny? Yeah, we understood that was a rare conflict, I guess. But well, thank you for coming. You were with us last year.
Yes,
I remember. And so, we have your budget, and it's and you have it there too. So if there's anything you want to cover, typically we're interested in changes from the approved budget for 26, and why we have changes. So if you want to go through that, that would be great.
I think really the only thing that's changing is salary.
Okay.
Everything else we kept level funded, and the only line item that you guys might have a question on would be the veterans benefits. And just to reiterate, that's required by the state, and the town gives a supplement to low-income veterans. We currently have 1 on the roster, which would equal about 7,000, so we've got a little bit of a buffer.
Okay. And just as a reminder, we share this position with Walpole.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And
Yeah.
Sherburne.
And Sherburne, excuse me, Sherburne, right. Walpole takes the lead in doing all the administrative
Correct.
stuff. But so how's the year gone for you?
Good. I mean, it's been a year, bringing on a new person, as you guys probably know. There's a lot more work at first
Yeah.
than it actually saves you. But once they're up to speed, and my assistant Heather is up to speed now, she's handling a lot of the 115s, the local benefits. And I can focus on veteran, like federal benefits,
Yeah.
VA stuff, all the disability claims, pension claims, aid and attendance, all those things.
Okay.
But it's been good. The addition of the third town has not become too overwhelming. So it's good.
Good. Any questions by anybody on this budget?
How many veterans you're actually dealing with? Do you have any numbers?
Yeah, so there's 875 in Walpole, 325 in Medfield, and about 91 in Sherwood.
325 in Medfield. Wow, that's a big number. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure they.
Yes, they do keep me busy.
Anything else from? Okay. Well, unless there's any other questions, I don't want to keep you here. So.
You guys have a busy night.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian.
One thing we didn't do, which we probably should do, is the minutes. Yes, I was just going to suggest. So, there was a draft submitted. Elizabeth submitted a draft at a minute. Is there any comments or questions on those?
Way more succinct than my minutes.
Yes.
Amanda? I thought they were very good.
Okay. All right. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve
Motion to approve.
February
the
10th
minutes.
minutes.
Motion to approve.
All right. Second. All right. I guess we got to do a roll call because Jill.
Aye.
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 And Jill.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Rob, why don't you come on up? And we can do the facilities budget. How are you?
Oh, well, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Nice shirt.
Good evening. Danny.
Your official Medfield shirt. So we have your budget. It's 2 pages. And maybe just update us on significant changes and things that are different from last year.
Sure. So over the past couple of weeks, Brent and I got together and reviewed the budgets. What we've done internally is we looked back 3 to 4 years at each budget, trying to ensure that whatever budgets were running in the red in the past were picked up, and then any budgets that were heavy in the black, we made some changes. When you look through this, the main change that you'll see is a $17,891 that was budgeted in the past for the electricity at the DPW garage. With that solar array on the building now, that building's self-sufficient electrically, so we're turning that money back to the town. So we will no longer be budgeting that money for electricity. We made some moves from the public safety building. We didn't increase the bottom line of the budget, but we took some money from the public safety building and moved it to a line item in town hall, because town hall traditionally over the last couple of years, 4 years, was running in the red. Those are the real major changes, other than utilities, which we all know are just a given that we had to raise. Other than that, it's pretty self-sufficient. I can take questions.
Yeah, I noticed all the utility, the heating bills all went up. That's the natural gas price increase.
Correct, yeah.
Why do they all go up at different rates? Is that just?
The way they were budgeted, like I said, when we looked back historically at some buildings, there was some fat in some buildings, so we didn't have to increase it as much. You know, we made an average over the past 4 years.
Okay. And the maintenance and repair one, the town hall, that's $6,300 increase. What's that for?
So like I said, the town hall was underfunded over the past few years. So we made that increase so that we wouldn't run in the red in that budget.
That's for maintenance, not any capital improvement, right?
Nothing in this budget is capital.
How long are the maintenance contracts for?
Commonly 3 years.
3 years.
Right.
And are they different rotations, cycles?
Yeah, so for example, we just started a new elevator contract this year at the town hall. Not every building is lined up the same, actually, but for like the cleaning contracts, trash contracts, those are all lined up across town. We just signed trash contract this fiscal year, so we have 2 more years after this fiscal year on that contract. We're going out to bid the end of March for the cleaning services. That'll be across town. So for the most part, they're across town, but there's a few road contracts that are independent to each building.
The electricity solar installation, what's the life cycle for that system?
I don't have a good answer for you on that because I wasn't here when it was installed. I can get that answer to you. They're going to tell you it's 20 years, but I don't want to put my name on that. So
Just curious.
And how many FTEs in your department?
I mean, what?
People.
So we have on the town side, we have 1 maintenance guy, and then I have an assistant that's under me. So on the town side, it would be 1.5 myself. Then we have, and then we have Ben, who's the project manager. So 2.5.
So there's 2.5 people in this budget, the salary budget. Yeah.
About 3.5. So myself, Ben,
3.5. Okay.
myself, Ben, Wayne, and Wayne.
Yeah, we share all with the school department, so only 20% of his salary is in a change, but only 20%.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
That's good, I've asked that.
Yeah,
It's a lot of volunteers.
so 1.5 salaries are reflected
Okay.
in the town.
And so the actual FY27 is the 821,966,
Yes.
Yes.
which is a 4.3% increase. And this wasn't a budget where we had like cuts because we had the
No,
that
we have
decrease.
the cut of 17,891.
That's in the electricity.
No, I know, but I guess there were some other budgets we went through that had like the level service and then the cut, but it sounded like that was a voluntary 17,000.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of whether it's what was the 17 again? It was for the
17,000.
solar.
Yeah. So
Solar, yeah.
We had anticipated taking that electricity savings at Public Works from other maintenance within the town buildings. And that is the cut.
I see. Okay, that was
Yeah.
not explicitly said. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that'll come back to my budget.
Okay.
yeah, so for the most part, when you look at this, like if you look at building maintenance contracts, those are all, for the most part, contracts that we're required to do and required to maintain, like I said, trash removal, pest management, elevator maintenance, all these state requirements. So it's not something that we can decide we're going to cut this. If we want to cut the elevator maintenance, we're going to shut the elevator off. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in these contracts. And
How about the park and rec building contract?
which one?
Park and rec building, 18,900.
So Park and Rec, you have Hinckley Field, you have that structure there. You also have the FAF Center, McCarthy Field.
What are we doing on the FAF Center?
Right now, what we're doing on the FAF Center is we still occupy the building about 30% right now. There's still quite a bit of storage in there. With the storage being in there, we're required to heat the building to a minimum, so I keep the heat as low as I can. I go in there daily and make sure that there's no issues with leaks and so forth, and with the snow load that we had, I review the roof and so forth. But our goal is to shut down the utilities as soon as we're safe and out of the anticipation of a freeze up, which is coming within the next 3 or 4 days. So as minimal as we can. We still have to maintain the fire alarm system because it's a town building. We have to maintain that. There's a few items that we still have to maintain by code, but very minimal.
And we're storing stuff in town hall there.
Yeah, but well, what's the maintenance what's that contract maintenance? What are we doing?
It's not a specific contract. It's just how the town writes it. So contract maintenance would be, like I said, the fire alarm service, the fire extinguisher inspections, the boiler, TM, the boiler inspections, those type of things.
And then Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not cleaning the building.
No,
But
not cleaning.
because Park and Rec is utilizing some other town buildings more frequently, we've had to shift that cleaning to cleaning, say, the Council on Aging an additional day a week, public safety additional day a week.
Okay.
So it's just a reallocation of that.
Yeah, right. Okay. Any other questions for Rob on this budget? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Dr. Marston and Michael, if you come up, that'd be great.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you? All right. Thanks for coming in. I was told you I could do those other departments first because you might be a little bit tied up with other meetings, I guess.
We did, yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
So, just by way of background, they prepared school department's prepared a presentation, and Ed has done his own analysis, and he has a presentation too. So we'll hear from Jeff and Mike, and then Ed. And I think my suggestion is, as we go through each slide, if it's okay with you, if we can ask questions.
Absolutely.
Because it's fresh in everyone's mind.
Absolutely.
That way we don't have to circle back on something. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody be prepared to ask your questions as we go through the presentation. So don't think we're being rude by interrupting.
No. Thank you. I just appreciate the opportunity tonight. I know we do this each year. I know it's been a difficult year for everyone on the Warrant Committee, and certainly for all of us as well. So appreciate all the hard work that you're doing, and I know that we still have work ahead of us. I always want to frame, what we do with our budgets around our mission statement and what we do as an organization. I always think that's important to kind of frame that around not only the mission statement, but the core values of the district and what we stand for each day. And it's really important for us to do that. Budget timeline at this point. To just give you a sense of where we've been, we started in late October, and you folks had given us the guidance on the 28th, and then we went through, working with the principals and directors. Michael and I put together our initial budget, which we share each December with the school committee. Went through that process, and then we actually had our public hearing at the end of January. And then now we're at the point where we're meeting with you folks and kind of ongoing conversations with Warrant Committee in town at this point, all going up to our annual town meeting in May. So again, just kind of going through this. I will highlight one part on this slide is that we did submit. It's very similar to what we've always done in the last couple of years. We've done a budget flip book, which the entire line item budget for the, our entire budget is put up there, 200 and something line items. We posted that and then distributed that to all of our parents. And we had a public hearing at the end of January, which we do each year, which is required by bylaw in town, and state law. We had presented a 3.99 at that point, from the superintendent's recommended budget. School committee voted for a level service budget of 5.02. Just kind of the assumptions we made when we developed the FY27 budget. I mean, most of them are fairly similar to what we've done in the past. Our federal entitlement grants will be level funded. Our chapter 70 will be increased by 180,000. That's the governor's budget. So we know that there are 2 more renditions of the budget that will happen before it's over. But right now there's an increase of 180,000 in our chapter 70. We did ask the school committee for reinstitution of our full day kindergarten, full tuition, then an increase to our pre-K as well. We felt that was important at this point because it saves some positions at Memorial. Circuit breaker, and I know you know what that is, but I'll just go through. Circuit breaker is the money that we get reimbursed each year. Once we spend over a threshold for special education, we submit that to the state and they reimburse us. So typically it's, the law is 75%. We've seen it as low as 42% and as high as 75%. We're assuming it's going to be 75% this year. And then in this rendition of the budget in the FY27, we have accounted for 3 Unit A retirements that are included in this. We do anticipate additional decisions around retirement coming in the next few weeks, so that may change. Anytime we do that and the number changes, we will have to have the school committee approve that and vote a new number. So that's why you still see what number you'll see tonight is the number that the school committee voted the last meeting.
Are the teachers?
I'm sorry.
Unit A is.
Yeah, no, yes,
Teachers and nurses.
Apologies, Dr. Marcy, on the kindergarten, the 3,500, that is 100% of what the town's historically.
It is.
Okay.
So we were scheduled to do 2,750.
Yeah.
In our strategic plan, we had a rollout of the 3 years to get to 0.
Mhm.
So this was going to be, next year was going to be the last year we're going to charge tuition, and then it was going to be free tuition for all in FY28. We went back on that based on the situation that we're in. So,
Yeah.
it made sense at that point. Our drivers are typical of any school district. Instructional and personnel costs. Every district you'll see around here in Massachusetts is 85% personnel. So that's our collective bargaining and our contracts. Transportation is also a big driver for us, both our general transportation and special ed transportation. The district costs for special education. And then we always include this health insurance cost, even though it appears on the town side, it definitely, as we are finding out this year, impacts what the town can spend on education and what they can spend on us. Break down a different way. The budget is 4.59% at this point, down from the 5.02, and that's due to the increase in tuition for both preschool and kindergarten. And you'll see the breakdown: teacher steps, lanes, increase in longevity is the 1.2 million number. For paraprofessionals at 268, and all other staff with their steps and percent of increase at 20,000. We're total existing at 1.5 increase. Supplies very small, and expenses very small. And then you look at our transportation increase and our transportation at 180. So again, we're in the situation right now. We have personnel costs, we have special education costs, we have transportation, and our utilities. That's what's driving our budget completely. So there isn't a lot of room to cut the other services other than existing staff once we get down to reductions. Our student enrollment, we look at historic enrollment for a couple of years and then the projection enrollment. This comes from NESDEC. So we partner with NESDEC, and they give us 2 projections each year, one in the fall and one in the spring. You'll see that our numbers, we anticipate having a large kindergarten class next year, then having a usual one around 180 or so, and then have another large one after that in FY29. So when we first got the data, we were expecting the FY27 increase. And the new data showed us that the FY29 is also going to be a large number, 230. And these are based on live births. These are kids living in our town. They're not projections. So they're here already.
So that the 27 was the COVID case.
Correct.
What's the 29 is just the same. Okay. Got it.
That I can't explain, Steve. I'll take your word for it. I know what the first one is, and I'll show what the second one is.
It was people like my wife not trying to have a second and having a second and a third. There you go.
And then you'll see on slide 9, our high school enrollment, which is, still around the sevens. At one point it was a lot higher than that, but we've been hanging around the sevens for a bit. Enrollment is starting to increase over the next couple of years, but not by a lot. Maybe by 100 or so kids, not a lot. But we're starting to see we looked at data from years and years ago where it seems to be a 30-year swing all the time in this community. We have these big swings of kids that come in when the district used to be at 3,000 per 3,000 total, and then it starts to go down again, and then it comes back up. So we're in that upswing right now with these grade levels of 200 plus coming in. So we're starting to see that. Whether it comes to fruition for the next 5 or 6 years, we'll see how that works out. But that's our current projections. The next slide I wanted to spend a little bit of time on because I think it's an important consideration for the warrant committee and also for the community to understand. So let's take a look at FY26 and where we are. There's those 3 components of a school budget. There's the Chapter 70 aid, which comes from the state. There's a local contribution, which you folks are certainly well aware of. And then there's the other, which we call, our grants, tuitions, and fees. So that's the money that we generate as a school district to offset costs. So in this current fiscal year, we're at 4.4 million. And I always like to talk about this because even though our budget is at 44 million, it actually costs 49 million to run the district as we see it right now. So that extra revenue generation really helps out. We're at 53.8 positions right now that we're paying outside the operation budget. So just to kind of put that in context, if you took the whole town side and their employees, Christine, like 107 or something, 108, whatever that is, we're funding kind of the equivalent of half the town funding just outside our budget. So, we're doing our part, trying to do the fees, the tuitions, and getting the grants and the entitlement grants to the tune of 4.4 million. So that's just an important thing I always want to talk about in this.
I think, did you have a question on this?
Sure. So when you say 53.8 are outfunded outside the operating budget, is that from that other grants, tuition fees? What is the source?
That's the 4.4 million. It is, yeah. Yep.
Is some of that the special ed federal money?
It is. Yes, absolutely. It's definitely.
So those positions are a big part of it is special ed.
See if we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have some of the offsets that we've gone through, and I know that you'll go in more detail when Ed and Michael start going through this, but it just gives you a sense of some of the offsets that we have with our special education circuit breaker, preschool revolver, kindergarten revolver, athletics, and building use. Just a note on the building use, when we did the new turf field 10 years ago, we committed $300,000 as a district to that cost, and this is year 10 now. So we've been putting $30,000 to the town on that for the payment on that. So this is our $300,000 total payment that's coming up this year.
Was that a loan and he's just offsetting the payment on the loan? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it was a deficit.
Also looking at parking fees, intramurals, music lessons. Before,
Excuse me a second.
Yeah.
So that answers your question on the.
Yeah.
She had a question on that payment for the football field. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was structured as a loan and the school pays back.
Right. Yeah, so we do that at our facilities account. So
Yep.
the rentals, we put that right in there.
Yeah.
Before and after school care, we've done pretty well with that now because we added an additional program this year because when we changed the start times, we heard from parents that wanted a bridge program. They didn't need a full, daycare till 6 o'clock. They needed something for about 45 minutes to an hour. So we added that program that's been really, really successful over at Wheelock. So the students that are in other schools other than Wheelock are bused there, and the program runs really well. So that's their school lunches in there. I know Michael and Ed will talk more about some of the costs around that.
Jeff,
Yeah.
so on parking fees, how much do you charge a student to park for that?
$180 bucket a day.
A buck a day?
Yes.
You whiz, if you're looking for revenue, isn't that low hanging fruit?
So it's kind of restricted in what you can use it for. So we're not going to, save teachers with that. I mean, we have to really use that for something related to the parking. So we've done the repaving, the striping. We pay some of the custodian time out of that because they're doing the plowing. So it does kind of pigeonhole us into that use. Because what we pay out of parking, we don't have in the operation budget. Like there's nothing that would offset it.
It's a revolve.
It's in the revolve.
It's a revolving account, so we wouldn't see that. Yeah, we wouldn't. I mean, you could do it in the revolver if there was something in the operation budget offset it, like we did with the memorial teachers and raising the tuition. Like that would make sense to do that, but we don't have anything in the operating budget for that would fall under the parking. Again, the grants, It's just, the typical grants that we get. We've heard nothing on the federal grants, whether they're gonna change or not. We're not anticipating that at all. I mean, the only thing that we've heard about is that the mechanism is gonna be different, not going from the Department of Education, maybe going to the Department of Treasury. But we've heard nothing, as far as that gonna be reduced. So we're happy with that, and that's really important. A lot of our Unit B folks, our teacher assistants, are paid out of the special education grants. That's really important to us.
Hey Jeff, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
When you guys say offsets, these are all revolvers,
Mhm.
so they're not part of the 4.4 million. Like, what? How come you list it as an offset? Just,
I'm not clear where you.
So
I guess I just wanted to clarify that they were like,
the only thing that's not part of that 4.4 million that's in here, chapter 70, which comes.
Everything else is part of the 4.4 million. All these offsets are all part of it.
oh, the revolvers are part of the 4.4.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
don't think I understand that.
Yeah. they're all
Okay,
part of it.
all right. Thank you.
Sure.
When you say you've heard nothing about federal grants, you're taking on no news is good news. And so there could be bad news and you're just hoping there isn't.
I'm not really taking that approach. I just feel like the fact that we're pretty involved with the state level with information and getting information at the state level with my association for the superintendents, and we're pretty dialed into that. So I feel like if we knew something was coming, we know it by now
Okay.
at this point in the budget season. So next slide is just a breakdown, the actuals that we spent in FY25, the FY26 budget, the request for 27 is a change, and that just breaks it down. Again, if you were at the public hearing, you know that it was a 3.9. So the variance on that last one was more positions. Now there's only that one position at Memorial. There's no other variances in positions because this is essentially a level service at 4.59 now. Because of the change with the tuitions.
Jeff, can you talk a little bit about there's some confusion, I think, with the way the budget process unfolded on this, with the school committee in terms of you had recommended a 3.9 budget. The level service was 5, and the school committee, voted for the 5. Now you're coming back with a 4.59. You've explained the difference between the 5 and the 4.59 budget being the tuition, right? You changed the tuition,
right.
Eliminated some positions. So what changed though between the 3.9 and the, so in other words, now you're recommending a 4.59 budget. When you first met with the school committee, it was a 3.9 budget. So what changed? Why are there?
Well, because the 3.99 is superintendent's recommended budget. So that's the one that I present to the committee. At that point, they can either accept that or they can vote on something different, which they did. They voted on a level service.
Yeah.
So at that point, this is now their budget. So it becomes the decision-making body is now the school committee, not what I'm.
Okay.
So that's why.
I think the reason that when you made your budget, Jeff and Michael, and presented it to the school committee, it was understanding where the town was fiscally. So being thoughtful and not coming with level service. So I think that's where it was, knowing we probably still have to make cuts, but being conscious about overrides and things like that. And then I think it's that public hearing, then school committee, the vote was, the school committee wanted them to put together a budget that wouldn't eliminate anything, right? And be like that.
Well, majority.
The majority.
We know one member.
We know one member.
Yes, but that's why you're coming back with this, because now
Right.
that's what the other members of the school committee asked them to do. So I don't think it's something that Jeff or Michael are saying. It was like the ask of the.
Yeah, we're not going from 3.9. We are not going from 3.99. Now we're jumping up to 4. No, the recommendation was 3.99. And the committee voted a different number, so now that's still.
So this 4.59 now is the school committee's recommendation. Okay.
Yep. So that's their new number.
Okay.
So at the last meeting,
I
they voted that new number because of what we did with the tuition and the for preschool and kindergarten. So that brought that number down. So so anytime, that's why I said the number is going to be the 4.
I just think it's good to talk about
absolutely.
so everybody understands.
Yeah, and I think there was some There was also some confusion that after that meeting, everyone said, oh, great, now we're gonna get 5%, not 3.99. It's just obviously not the way it works. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think if there are any other reductions that happen within this budget prior to, you know, town meeting, whatever that number might be, the school committee would need to vote that again.
Yeah.
So we get more clarity around retirements and we, you know, start looking at that, then they'll probably revote another. So it's kind of an ongoing process.
Okay, sorry I interrupted.
No, I think that's fine.
Can I just clarify, Sue, is,
Yep.
did the 3.99% include the tuition? Like the pre-K and the,
No, the
kindergarten.
399 had the tuition staying the same.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It had the lower level of
It
tuition.
did, had a lower level of tuition, had the 2750 for kindergarten.
so assuming that the school committee did not amend to go to level service, you would have come tonight with something like 3.6%,
If I had
Or
asked them
if-
to change the tuition. If I-
right?
yeah.
Okay, just so I can understand.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It could have stayed at 3.99 without a tuition change, but if the tuition change happened, then it would be lower than 3.9.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Next slide, just another breakdown kind of by function that Jesse makes us organize our budgets by. So the 5 point, we try it again. The 4.59 increase includes cost of living, steps, lanes, longevity units A and B, increase to transportation, both general and special education, increase to supplies and services, and our increase to utilities, which I know Michael will talk about at some point, that it's certainly gone up a bunch for utilities for us. The next slide has the approved budget, recommended budget, and the change. Next slide, maybe hopefully not causing confusion, but kind of the order that went down. Superintendent budget 3.9, school committee budget 4.59, warrant committee within Prop 1.8, and then the current gap at 1.2, just kind of laying that all out so we can see it. You know, one of the things that we typically talk about at the public hearing, which I think is a really important piece, is that there are positions that the directors and principals ask for that don't make it in the budget. And I think it's important to say that even though they're not in the budget, the need doesn't go away. There's still needed positions that we need to have within our district. And I just put some of those down: adjustment counselor, math specialist, BCBA, with board certified behavioral analyst, math specialist, wellness teacher, business teacher, instructional coaches. Ever since I've been here for 13 years, the school committee will ask me, what is one thing in the budget that you wish was in there? And instructional coaches have done the same answer for 13 years. I think it's an important investment that we make in our teachers. And I know that surrounding districts have those positions, and we just kind of can't seem to get them. So
We ask you for this every year, the last couple of years.
Right.
This list and the dollars associated with it has grown. I don't know how this year compares to last year, but I do know that the dollars over the last 2 years have almost doubled between the town and the school of needs that are unmet.
positions that aren't there for sure.
Yeah.
And when you're saying recommended FY27 budget, that's not in the 4.59% recommended budget, right?
That was in the 3.99 positions.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're definitely not in the 4.9. They're not there either. They're not either one of them. The next slide, just, you know, something we always talk about too is our per pupil expenditure and kind of how we stack up. I know that we always like to talk about rankings and where we are here, there, and everywhere. So let's take a look at where we are per pupil expenditure. And you'll see that we're near the bottom in this group with Foxborough, Millis, Norwood, Sherman, Needham, Westwood, Dover, and Dedham all spending more than us, considerably more. We look at Dover and Dedham for sure. And the next slide talks about it, that the average in the state is 23,000. And if we in Medfield spent the average, our budget would actually increase by another 5 million, or be a 14.4% increase. So, you know, we were obviously very competitive, and our teachers do a great job, principals, everyone does a great job. Our kids are awesome, but we're still not spending to what our peers are spending in education. And that's just very, very, very clear. We've done better. We've certainly have increased that. Our per pupil was really, really, really low years ago, and we've made some strides in that. And I think it's, I felt like it was almost like a badge of honor when I got here how low it was, and I think we've really tried to work on that to make sure that we're spending on the important things. And then just some of the reductions in the next slide is I know that you folks have asked us for this, school committee has asked us for this. We put together a list of what some of the reductions would be in the order of reduction being first to last in the next two slides. So if we needed to start cutting positions, if there's, I think even with an override, I'm not, I don't know what number you folks are picking, but I think even with an override, we'll still have to make some reductions. So this is what we looked at for our order of importance or how we're going to do it for priority. So looking at the first one, moving 10% of custodians into a food service revolving account. So that's something we can do because they spend about 10% of their time in the cafeteria. So we're able to move those positions in there. One of the things that our teachers have done a really good job on the last 10 years or so is R&D, research and development in the summer, whether it's creating courses or implementing programs or developing really neat things that kids are going to use in the fall. So we put that in there as a reduction of 30,000, and that's a payroll deduction because we pay our teachers to do that. One of the things that we've also done initiative wise within the district is that we pay teachers for committee work. So that's time that they spend after school, after their work day, working on different initiatives in the district, and we've eliminated that in there as well. The town district technology expenses, I think Michael had talked to me that Ed had talked to Michael about that not needed to be in there anymore. So we're probably going to just take that out of our list anyway.
I think that one has already been added to the town
so I
budget.
think we're good there.
It shouldn't be in your budget.
So I think we're good there.
Wait, well, the school committee approve it.
They got to approve it and revote it. So that's why it's there now. But,
if they don't, we will.
Yeah, there you go. So looking at the central office position, part-time reduction there, 0.5, administrative assistant full-time, and then we start getting in the teachers. So first one is high school, 1 FTE, 2 FTEs at Dale Street, 1.4 at Wheelock, 1 FTE at high school, 2 FTEs at Blake, 1 FTE at the high school, 1 FTE at Dale, 1 FTE at Wheelock, and then 1 at Dale. And that gets us to the number of the 1.2. So that would be, in our mind, worst case scenario around, an override not passing, and that we're in the framework of 2.5 at 1.8%.
So on this list, this appears to change slightly from the hearing, right? When you guys,
Yes.
it's changed.
So there's been more conversation with the committee and
Okay.
and it'll probably change again before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of working through this, and as you know, I sent you all the information of what it takes to do a reduction in force in a school department. It's not just have a nice day. It's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And there's bumping, and there's seniority, and there's certifications, and there's a lot to it. So it's going to be a difficult process and a long process, and these positions may change as we go through the process.
When we talk about FTE full-time equivalent, we're not necessarily, it's not as though 1 FTE teachers is necessarily one person. It's the total hours worked to get up to one person.
In this particular case, it's a person. It is. Yeah, in this case,
it is.
So on the 1.4 FTE teachers at Wheelock, for example,
right?
That's 2 teachers.
Correct.
I was curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
So you mentioned retirements, and wonder if you could maybe just let us know. Do you know what I think were there 2 retirements?
3.
There's 3 built in this.
Three.
Yeah, there's 3 built in there.
What schools are they at?
2 at Memorial and 1 at Dale. And we know that there's going to be an additional few for sure, but what we're talking about are the ones that have done the paperwork, not just an email. And we've signed off on that. So that's the tried and true. You're definitely retiring. I mean, I think what we've seen is we've had teachers in the past say they're retiring, and then come April or May, I kind of changed my mind when I come back.
Yeah.
So right now, this is what we have for.
Is there kind of a timeline of when you expect to hear from the ones who haven't decided?
Yeah, I would think by April vacation, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We would know.
So Jeff, when you list, for example, 1 at Dale, an FTE that would be lost if there is no override, you can count. Now, this is a question, not a statement.
Yeah.
Can you count a retirement does not backfill that position.
Absolutely. You definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's what we're going to try to figure out as part of this process is what can be done through attrition and what is actual reduction force. So that's why it's just taking a little bit longer once we kind of flesh this out a little bit. But I mean, our goal would be to do some attrition through retirement and not lay off existing people. But we also have the laws that we have to follow where if we do a reduction in force, it has to be non-professional teachers first. We have a whole list of those folks, and then it goes into other areas. So we need to follow that procedure as well.
So you've identified teachers, you call them teachers at schools in this list. Are you able to tell us, are they in the core curriculum? Are they specialists? I mean, where are they?
Yeah, we're still kind of working that out right now. There are definitely classroom teachers involved. And the next slide is going to show you some of the impacts on class size.
Okay.
So which wasn't in your warrant packet.
That was one of my questions. So I'm glad yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of them could be program people. Some of them could be classroom teachers. But again, that's our goal is to have that all worked out by April vacation so that we can sit with staff and have that conversation. If the override doesn't pass, this is what's going to happen, and support them if they need to have, I mean, we benefited from some really good hires from other districts that have laid off in the past, Westwood from Franklin. So, I think we want to make sure that we help people out because, we have great people working here and they can do some good things other places as well. And it's kind of what we do in this area among superintendents and principals to try to help people out with that. So
Yeah, you just used the phrase, and I apologize for my ignorance, non-professional teachers.
it's not professional status. So if you're a teacher, years 1, 2, and 3, on the first day of year 4, you get professional status, which comes with a whole host of legal protections around that. But it's also something we celebrate every first year because you've done a really good job to get there. You've done well in your evaluations. You're doing a great job by our kids. So you're going to stay because not everyone gets to do that. Sometimes the years 1, 2, and 3 they don't. Teachers don't come back.
And then I guess on the reduction priorities, seeing as how there's 2 different positions at Dale, but separated by about 44,000. Is that like seniority cuts?
Yeah, and I think we tried to spread it out evenly so that one school wasn't getting hit. So if we have to cut it off that one, then it goes to the next school and then Dale again, as opposed to just nailing 2 at Dale right at the end like that. So
and the other thing is, it doesn't mean that the person is at Dale.
Okay.
Because
the person could be at a different school.
Because that's the bumping piece.
Yep.
So if Steve's working at a building, and he has seniority, but has a certification somewhere else, and he gets laid off, and he can bump someone else if he has a certification of someone without the seniority. So it's like all that we have to do and map out before we can start, having these conversations with people. So that's what we're doing.
Complicated, yeah.
It's really complicated.
Yeah.
So the next slide just talks about what the 1.8 increase could be. And I think it's, one of the things that we've seen with class sizes. I think full day kindergarten, we typically cap at 22. And then first grade is right around 20 because it's a really small kindergarten this year. So that's going to be a really help to us for first grade. But I think the impact, really start to see that in grades 2 through 5. So this would be, if the 1.8 went through, we look at 24, 25, 25, 26, 24, 23, 24, and then 25, 26. I think, one of the great things about our district and what parents and teachers expect and kids deserve is the lower class size. I think we've always had that here. It's, at least since I've been here, it's worked really, really well. I think people can get behind that. They understand that the research is really clear on this. And if you don't, Google a Tennessee Star report from 1985 and it'll tell you all about it. I mean, it's smaller class sizes make a big difference. And I think that's, every single student makes a difference in a classroom. And, we'd like to keep our kids at elementary 19 to 22. Those are good numbers for our teachers and for our kids. So seeing those numbers, obviously disappointing. And then it's a little harder to quantify some of those numbers at the secondary level because of courses and that type of thing. But I will say that, the range would probably be low 20s to high 20s, depending on the subject or the course or department. And then it's more of an impact, I think, at the secondary level when you start looking at, not having some of the AP courses, not having some of the electives. We've lost a couple of budgets ago when we reduced a full-time physical education teacher, wellness teacher at the high school. We lost a host of electives up there for those kids. And, our kids work hard and they study hard, and they need classes like that to, keep their mental health where it needs to be. And it's unfortunate that we lost some of those classes. So I think the loss of electives is something that you're going to feel more at the secondary level, more so than the class size issue. Then the study periods. Okay, Steve, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you a question, or an ask, I guess. Could you don't need to do it now, but provide it to us later. But would be helpful to put this in context and know like what's 25 fiscal 25's class size.
Oh, sure.
What's the 26 budget class
yeah,
size?
Yeah.
And then layer this on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely do that.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, it would give you a pretty good idea. I would say that you're looking at 17 or 18 to 21 to 22 in elementary. There's a couple of 24s at Dale, whatever, but it's been in that range.
Yeah.
So school committee policy.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the degree of change? You know what I'm saying?
And when you look at the faces behind me, they'll probably tell you exactly what the impact is. They've never seen these numbers. No one's seen these numbers except for you guys tonight.
Yeah.
So I think 25, 26 in grade 3 is a little shock.
If you could share that with us later, and I'll share it with you.
Happy to do that. Happy to do that. So I think that the one thing that we brought up, the school committee or public hearing, I don't remember, but we talked about the potential study periods at the high school. This is something in the middle school that happened years and years and years ago. And it's not the flex that you have now where kids can go and check in with teachers and do the extra help and do that kind of thing. It's more of a where kids just go to a room and someone watches them. It's just a really different vibe, and it's really going backwards, and we don't want to go there. So that's something just to bring up at the secondary level. We're not really interested in warehousing kids and not having instruction and learning happening, but that's what study periods do, and that's what other districts do, and we just don't do that. So that's just something that we talked about. Potentially, if you don't have enough courses to offer, that's something that we need to look at as a district going forward. And I'll just end on that. I mean, that's kind of what we do here. We always end our presentations with that as a background, and any questions that we didn't cover, happy to answer. I know Ed and Michael have the revolving accounts to go over. Happy to answer anything.
Do you have one other question on the revenue side? Was anything getting to user fees for the buses?
So the school committee asked us to do that. Yeah, so the school committee asked us to put together projections for that at the next meeting in March. So we're doing that. Yeah, I think we're one of the few districts that don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't have bus fees. So we're putting that together, and it's always been kind of a challenge because of our structure. The way all our kids go to different buildings instead of neighborhood schools. But I think we're putting some stuff together. Michael's working on that, and we're going to present that.
I'm not asking in a vacuum. I got 3 kids, so this will
Right.
cost something.
Right,
but,
for sure.
When you think about, I've got 2 kindergartners incoming, so I get
Right.
that. I think that's kind of one of the points that, I just want to make is that, I recognize you guys have cuts and everything else, and you got kids in schools, and I see a lot of kids, teachers in here. Just one, so I think that's one of the big things is that cuts definitely impact our kids, and increase costs definitely impact our kids and our families. We don't take that lightly,
Right.
but I'd be a bad budget finance committee person if I didn't say, well, what about increasing fees on buses or kindergarten?
Right.
So that's the only reason I
That's fair.
asked.
For sure. Thank you.
I also, sorry, I assume there, but I know nothing about it. Are there fees for participating on athletic teams? And does it vary by sport?
That's what they're going to do. They're going to go through all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All right, well, let me begin by thanking Jeff and Mike, but I always went to work and time with me. Thinking Mike has been in his office quite frequently over the last month or so. So I thank you. So I've got basically 2 schedules that will handle the operating budget. I hope we can make that as much as possible. And then I'll get into the revolvers. But this first one has to do is really 3 sections to the schedule. the top section there is the historical breakdown of salaries into its component parts. The steps and lanes, the paraprofessionals, all other staff, longevity, stipends, substitutes, overtime, etc. All of that broken out so that you can see historically what's happened and what this budget looks like. So payroll represents about 84% of the total budget. And as Jeff said earlier, it's usually between 80 and 85 throughout the district. So we're at 84%. I don't know whether that's a function of people have been here longer and therefore making more what the mix is, but it is what it is. But if you look at that breakdown, then very top line, teachers and steps and lanes going up $1,237,000. We have a footnote A there, which is we moved one teacher for about $75,000 into the kindergarten revolver that was already addressed, but through a savings from 2 retirements.
Is it 2 or 3?
The third one was already in the original budget.
Third, yeah.
Okay.
Third was, yeah.
Okay.
So that was about 185,000 that came off. With that, the increase is 4.3%. And then the next line, the paraprofessionals, that's going up 15.6%. That's a function of their contract rates as well as some adjustments to be competitive.
Yeah.
And those are the 2 big numbers.
You had a
Look at all the
question on
numbers
that, right?
below that. It's 5,300, 8,400, 5,000, 10 small numbers.
So I'm sorry, Ed.
Sure.
I figure it's easy to ask these questions now. On the paraprofessionals, that why did it go up so much again? What was the reason for that?
So they're on, you want me to answer that? So they're on a new pay scale. So they went from a pay scale that was 4 categories to 2. They because in order to get them aligned to what other paraprofessionals were making in the area, we have to make that adjustment. And this is going to be year 1.
Well, that contract was negotiated last year, and then you're just reflecting what in that collective bargaining agreement. Okay.
So that's like to be competitive with Westwood, to be competitive with Dover, those things.
So and if you look at our paraprofessional contract, we're still in the middle of it. So we went from the bottom to the middle.
Okay.
You might get to this, but on footnote C on there, it says we reduced 2 custodians from FY26. When I was going through the flip book, it looks like the custodial contract services goes from 75 to 155. So I was just curious what that.
One's an expense and the other's payroll. You got help.
Well,
I'm not sure what the line item.
And I can answer that.
Yeah.
So what we had to do, so at Memorial School, we've been advertising for custodians, science para custodians. We've had openings, and we had to make a decision because we couldn't get custodians and we had to fill those slots. So we went out, we procured contracts with outside vendor to do a cleaning service. We moved 2 custodians from one school to another school, which was our smallest school, Memorial School. We brought a cleaning service in there. There's savings on the payroll side, but the contracted service side went up for that contract.
Is it the net of which is about a $30,000 savings?
So
that's what I was curious. Yeah.
So I didn't understand your question.
No, I asked it.
And on the payroll, I'm assuming on the payroll side, it only went up 5,000. There's something else netting in there. The increases.
Yeah, well, that includes administrative assistants.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So if you go to the bottom of that on the total line, the salaries are going up 4.09, 4.1%. The reason I put so many years across there is to give you some perspective of what's happened in the prior year. So we've gone from like in 22 versus 21, it was 3 point up an increase of 3.9, and it went to 3, then to 5.3, 4.0 to 4.5. So the 4.1 is right there within that range. I guess to state the obvious, what it basically says is this is the cost of doing business in a school system. It's going to go up there regardless of what kind of revenue we have. This increase of $1.5 million in payroll, I think the total increase under the 1.8 is like 900,000 for for everything.
Yeah.
Payroll and expenses. Here we are, payroll, about 600,000 over, and that's just cost of doing business. But I'm stating the obvious there. The next section is the FTEs within the operating budget. Remember, most of the FTEs are in the operating budget. Some FTEs, like the teacher we just moved into kindergarten revolve, or one of the preschools, they're down in the revolvers.
Yeah.
So between the two, you get the total of FTEs. So the middle section of the FTEs in the operating budget, you can see that going down 3. 1 was the teacher moving to the kindergarten, and 2 were the custodians that were basically went for offset by outsourced at memorials. And then down in the grants and revolvers, and I think this, Elizabeth, this was one of your questions, how can we pay for these 54 people? Well, the teachers are the ones that are going to be charged to revolvers. That's first line 7.2. 29.9 assistants. Those are the paraprofessionals, most of which are in the 240 grant, special ed grant. 0.9 for administrative assistants, and then the food service with almost 17 people. So that gets you to the total FTEs of 429. You can see it's obviously down 2 from the prior year. If you look all the way over to the left, you can see back in 22 we had 424. Now we're at 429. So we're up 5 FTEs basically over all those years. If I can remember correctly, I'll bet you 3 of those 5 were the years in which we had a behavioral specialist or an adjustment counselor. They weren't teachers, as I recall. We were filling in for some of the social emotional needs
From COVID. And I'm just on that question. Do you see that as continuing for at least a generation? Or how long is that need gonna be there for these kids?
A while.
Yeah.
A while. And I think it's not just that, it's other factors, but that doesn't help it for sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So we can go to the next slide. That's the expenses. So this captures what I call the major components of the expenses as I look at them. Special education costs, the facilities, transportation, facilities and operations, technology, and then all other, which is a deduced number. So if you go from the top to the bottom, we're looking at actuals in 23 all the way through the budget in 27, and you can see the differences in numbers there. But in total, if you look at the tuition for the private schools, it's $1,592,000 for 27. That is for 16, I believe, is the number. It's down. We've gone down over the years. Back in 23, we had 21 students. Then it went to 20 and 24, 18 and 25, 17 this year, 26, and now down to 16. Which I don't know if you go back further than that, Jim, but how low, if it had to be higher than that even prior to 23. But it's helpful in terms of the budget because each of those students can cost about $150,000, $160,000 per person between the tuition and the busing. And a busing private company that transports them.
So that's a nice segue to my question on next line item, the 25% increase. Is that
transportation for special ed is something that Mike used that we look to get quotes because that has gone up tremendously.
Yeah.
So our current vendor, who's a collaborative, and the reason why we go with the collaboratives is because we get a break on our tuitions and our transportation. So they provide the service at a low cost. So we're currently paying $4.30 per mile for every student transported. And next year it's going up to $5.27 a mile. So for the town of for the Medfield Public Schools right now, that costs me about $180,000 increase.
You go back and look at the numbers there. Back in 23, we're paying just over 500,000. Then it went to 615. 736.
It's really
It's just,
almost doubled.
yeah, yeah. Now 880,000.
So that mile, is that approved, is that a negotiated amount, or is that just something that they,
So what they do is they back in all their expenses
yeah,
and the number of students they have and the cost of, you know, the expenses are insurance, drivers, vehicles, gas.
yeah,
You know, they take all that, you know, expense side, and then they take the number of students they have and the miles that they drive those students to do the simple math, and then they come up with it.
And, you know, again, we're fortunate because we did have one student age out.
Yeah.
That was a really expensive student, and therefore, that offset what would normally be the increases in tuition year to year.
It's good, and that always makes, I think, from the school committee perspective, though, that could change tomorrow. Like, we
Right.
could have someone buy a house and come in with 3 kids who all, you know, so I feel like this number is like
No touch upon
always, yeah.
that. Get into the circuit breaker. Touch upon that. And then, you have tuitions to the mass schools, minor increase, $6,400. The big number, next number is transportation. That's the Connolly bus. This is the year where we have a new contract, and you always get a big increase in that first year with Connolly, and then it seems like in years 2 through 5, it's up about 4%. That's the way that business works. But that's 152,000.
is it a 5-year contract or?
It's a 3-year contract with a 2-year option.
Okay.
And after the 3rd year, you should do another review, see whether you want to go out to bid, but
You don't have a lot of options.
we don't have a lot of positions, right? And Connolly's been very good, they're a good company. If you look at the facilities, all those categories of electricity, heat, water, telephone, etc. In total, it's 79,000, 5.6%. Within that, we have the big increase there is in natural gas going up about 130,000, a 41% increase in as a result of the new contract. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, let me just. So we usually go into it's called a 36-month contract with power option, which is now. Don't remember the name. It'll come to me. So this last time the common schools we go in together because Foggy gets us a better price, but it's a lot of uncertainties in right now in the economy, and what's happening in the United States and overseas, that the prices are swinging. So we didn't lock into a 36-month contract this time, but just to show you the increase. So the last time we went out, we were paying as a fixed cost per term $5 5.613. Okay, this last contract, and the number has increased. I checked today for our fix that we locked in is 9.197.
Wow.
Difference between the 9.197 and 5.6, 67.78% increase. And if you look at, you're going to see it's a 41% increase on our increase on our budget. And the difference between the 67 and 41 is I looked at the last 3-year trends. I looked at the volume. That being said, this is the coldest winter we've had in 23 years. So we didn't take that in consideration. But we looked at the last 3 years and we did an analysis, and then we adjusted our budget according to the increase in the volume.
Okay.
So we didn't do a 36-month contract.
We did not.
So is that,
So it's going to open. Correct. No, it's not much.
yeah, but it's.
What is it, a 1 year?
I believe it's 2 years.
It's just 1 year, it'll expire in November.
Okay.
So there's a risk in
There is a risk because right now when I looked at the price,
fiscal 27.
correct, there's a risk because I can tell you right now, looking at that price right now, it's higher because of what's happening in the last.
Yeah. And 28 too, I guess.
Mike, I apologize, I'm not sure about you. So the contract you have now expires in November of 2026.
2026,
Yep.
December.
December of 2026, at which point you'll seek a new one-year contract.
Well, it depends on the market. I mean, if the price is down, we're gonna probably lock in for the 24, 36, but we can lock in for 18, we can lock in for 12, all depending on what the market shows.
Okay.
But basically, if the price keeps going up.
You're gonna be a commodities trader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about
We
the
work-
headlines in the newspaper.
That's
what's
why we
going
have
on,
to do it for us.
Oil and natural gas.
You have an advisor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, they could turn around and say, listen, the price went down, we can open up that contract and it'll be what they call a mixed price. So they take the old price, they take the new price and you get a new price.
Yeah.
And then you can then extend it from there. So there's other ways of doing it. But we do have an advisor that I assume the price goes down, but they will notify.
Okay, moving along, on the district technology, you can see those half a dozen categories, all of which are budgeting this time to be flat. The only thing that's not in here yet is what we talked about earlier, the 30,000 that Owens absorbed at the town.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can't pay for it twice, so it's already in the town budget. So it needs to come out of this budget.
That is not yet going to reflect because that
Yeah.
has to be supported by the school committee. And lastly, the other expenses going up 109,000, 80 of which is that increased cost for the custodial services that we talked about earlier. So when you add all that up together, the total expenses are going up 7.2%. The big dollars again, the $180,000 in special ed transportation, Connolly transportation, another 152,000, 130,000 in fuel. Then all other expenses, another 100. But those top three, that's almost $500,000 of incremental expense. So when you think of, what's going up for the school system, the payroll is what it is, and the increased expenses is what.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, so this is like 7.6 million, right, in non-payroll. Special ed is 1.6. Transportation's $1.9 million. Natural gas is 450,000. That's almost $4 million right there.
Right.
Which is over half of it. But so my question is, so I get that, those things are really impacting, the overall non-payroll budgets. Is this all other expenses? There's like almost $2 million of other expenses. And we don't have a lot of detail on it. I'm wondering if you could send that to us.
Well, it's in the detailed book. I've looked at it I've gone through and I had a one schedule here of the line items that went up. I didn't even look at the ones that are going down. But most of those line items, of which in this category, there's probably 150 line items that you'll be looking at, and they're all level budget. When you're doing a budget that you're starting in October and November of the current year, when you haven't even got any history for your current year, and trying to project for next year, it's pretty hard in a lot of these categories to know or do a real good thorough budget. It's just your crystal ball isn't that clear when you go out that far. You're a year and a half away from numbers. So a lot of those is budgeted flat. There are some accounts that went down, and I've got about 12, 15 here that went up.
Are there any big ones?
No. The biggest one here I see $10,000 is employee retirement contribution.
So
the biggest one is 10,000.
No, that's an increase from 15 to 25. That's the biggest increase of those line items. Other than the outside service for custodians.
And I can talk about that 10,000. That's so employees can contribute to 403B, and so instead of sick time, and so we have to account for that.
Yeah, there's something like math textbooks going up 7,000, social studies textbooks and related materials 4,000.
And I can talk about the 7,000. That was math, right?
Math,
yeah. So that's middle school math. Middle school, right? Middle school math program.
So those would be the line items that they know about.
All the supplies are in that.
All the supplies,
Yeah.
yeah, there's. Yeah, family consumer supplies, it's up 500, up 450 on another one.
Yeah.
Curriculum materials up 2,000. And we
Can you send that to us?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
I don't want to take time.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, most of those line items budgeted flex,
Yeah.
it's so small.
A lot of small things.
Yeah, no, they add up. No.
Huge department.
But when you think of all those line items add up, it's only 109, of which we know 80.
Yeah.
So. All right, I think that takes care of that. So in total, that, again, you got a 4.1% increase in payroll, 7.2% increase in other expenses. It blends out to the 4.6%. All right, let's move to the next revolvers. So what I did here on the top is based on their current balances, I went high to low, based on how much money we have in each of the revolvers, from food service all the way down to music. You can see at the bottom there that we had almost $3.2 million at the end of 25, 2.9, almost $3 million at 26, and going down to about $2.8 million in 27. But I think for the benefit of certainly everybody in the audience here and you people, let me go over some revolver basics. So yeah, we understand. First of all, revolvers are individual revenue centers. Just think of them as mini businesses that are run and managed by the schools and not part of the district's operating budgets. Not at all. You'll see that when you come to fees for parking. So they have specific revenue sources, direct expenses that support the activity. They can absorb other allocated expenses from the operating budget that are tangentially related to the running of the business. They must be self-sufficient. They're operated on a cash basis, therefore not allowed to go negative. Like a real business, you can't go out and borrow. And like any business, they have to look forward to future years so that the balance in the account will be sufficient to pay for future capital asset purchases, as well as unforeseen disruptions to the business. And when you look at a revolver, you always have to look back and look forward, because back tells you the story and forward tells you what you think is going to happen in the future. All right, so let's look at the first one, the food service. Put an awful lot of years, we put a lot of years in this just so you can see the history. If you go way back to 2020, you had $93,000 left at the end of the year. So you had done $676,000 in revenue, and you had $93,000 in the bank. The next year, you only had $15,000 in the bank. So food service has traditionally been a very, very tough business to run. Very, very tough. It's like a restaurant. You don't make much money. However, when COVID came along, the government started to pay for free lunch for everybody. And our revenue, you can see, jumped from 21 to 22, from 508,000 to $1,738,000. You can see across, we've been in that $1,500,000, $1,600,000 range ever since. And because of that, the ending balance, that what's left over at the end of the year, has grown tremendously to the point where at the end of this current year, we're looking at $1.6 million there. And there are plans that you see some footnotes there that in 25, we replaced some dishwashers in 3 schools. 26, we're going to replace stoves in the high school in Blake, and then 27 refrigerators and equipment. There's still a lot of money, but it's not something that's said you can't charge expenses to this that aren't directly related to this. So all your food costs, all of your payroll, you can allocate some of the custodian's time. That's that 22,000 you see up there in allocated payroll, because it does take them time to clean. So like doing everything you can there. This balance will continue to go. Eventually, the government's going to wake up and say,
well, that was my question.
They're going to say,
is the government going to continue to fund this?
I don't know. I think when they originally did
I imagine all school districts have this issue of having a lot of money
They
in
do
this
now.
revolve.
Can you guys ask the reps about, because this is the state level, right?
So
About
so
reallocating some of this money to help with,
It's a
Teacher-
different, it's a whole different account. So it has not, so it's a whole different way.
Is it federal and
Federal.
state?
Federal and state.
Federal
So-
and state.
So it's a different agency, but we report it every year, so they see what every schools are reporting.
But all
What
other
percent is
schools have,
federal?
they have a similar issue. I mean, it's a good problem, I guess, to have.
It's a good amount.
like more than 50?
I think when the government started, during COVID, money was flying everywhere. Everybody was getting checks, businesses, et cetera. And they kind of launched this, it's my own personal opinion. They said, all right, we're not gonna try and fine tune this, and give free lunch to just the lowers and the area, the Fall Rivers, et cetera, may need it more than Medfield, which is gonna give everybody free lunch. I think had they had the time and thought it through, they would have said, well, okay, these communities don't need to get it all.
Yeah.
But that never happened. And that's me talking. That's why we're in this.
But thank God we're beyond COVID now.
Right.
And the spigot of money started during COVID and no one has turned it off.
So the governor has made a commitment to this the last 3 fiscal years. She has made that determination that we're going to continue for free lunch for all students,
For the state.
for the state. But the
So
reimbursement
regardless
comes from the
what the
federal.
How much of it,
does,
is
they don't
federal
pick
and
it up?
state? Oh, it comes from the state,
It comes through the federal government.
federal government to the state.
And then the state decides.
How much to, oh, okay, so it is within the state's
Yeah,
control.
state is making the decision.
Yeah, they're the ones that do it.
Free.
But that's what I mean, like if the problem is that we have too much money here and we need money somewhere else, isn't that something that we could talk to the state
So
reps about?
they
Like,
said they won't be able to switch like, hey, we want to take 50,000.
well, obviously, yeah.
But those are some of the questions. So for those who don't know, the reps are coming to the school committee meeting on Thursday, but we do ask them, like, we're asking them about questions about like state funding or federal funding for special ed accounts, any of these things, and like what the state level is doing and how they can help with that. And I do think that's a good point, like we're funding this over, so probably other schools or districts are in the same situation, like find money elsewhere, but yes.
Yeah.
So we do have that on the list of questions. for
It'd
that,
be
and that we
interesting,
set
it would be interesting to see if like the big cities have this issue, or if it's just.
The big cities still have money from COVID probably. I mean, they got a
So they got a lot of money, and
a lot of money.
well, they ought to get their
Yeah, I don't-
representatives.
But I mean, I think you look at it and, kind of build on what Ed said. I think it served its purpose, and I think that the students that need it should get it.
Yeah.
Students in Medfield that need it should get it.
Mhm.
I don't think it makes a lot of sense for all students to get it at this point when we're looking at other needs that communities have right now, so. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, and
Here,
next one's the kindergarten revolver. So as Jeff talked about earlier, we were on that program to go to free kindergarten. It was a wonderful program. We were proceeding on target until this problem arose. Now we have to go back to where we were with $3,500 for tuition. And that will obviously change our income in future years. So Mike actually did out the math. And if you look at, for instance, 2027 will be the first year, which 3,500 is paid. There'll be about 195 students in that population. Take out some, about 10% who will be free and reduced, who won't have to pay anything. And he's gone through the math and said, okay, at that rate, if you multiply the 195 times 3,500, you get about $682,000.
195 paying students.
yeah,
There's some that won't.
there's a little typo on your schedule.
Was there a title?
27, you said it's a decrease, it's actually an increase. Right,
Oh, okay.
tuition increase to 35.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And that 682 would be the 624, you're seeing 27 plus the 58.5, you're seeing 26 for the people who pay in June, which is a different fiscal year.
Yeah.
So those are the revenue projections going forward based upon those estimated number of students. Less than 10% being reduced.
And you can see the double bump in kids like you mentioned, yeah. Okay.
That now has the additional teacher moved into the kindergarten revolving. So next one, circuit breaker. The bottom footnote on this is this has been adjusted for a timing difference in the receipts, because when we first looked at this schedule, we saw a negative number in 25 at minus 55,000. And I said, how can we do that? We know revolvers can't go negative. And then I spoke to Andrew, and it was basically a timing difference between the fourth quarter payment didn't get booked until the subsequent year.
Okay.
So we corrected for that. And so that's how we arrived at the 229,000 at the end of 25. So if you look at this, you can see our expected receipts based upon the 26 forecast of eligible expenses for special ed. We'll have about $733,000 reimbursement at the 75% rate. We're going to offset the expenses that we have that you saw in the prior schedule. We did the expense schedule for $883,000. There's two pieces to that. One piece is $733,000, which we think we're going to get for the offset the expenses, and there's another 150 that we're adding to that. And that is basically for transportation, and it's an estimate. We have not had guidance for that.
So that answers my question. I got confused because the 773 number was under the receipt column, and then your
Yeah,
the 733 was under receipts, and then the footnote was talking about the 27 circuit breaker offset,
that's the
which is a different line item.
yes. Which is
So, but you're saying you add the 733 and the 150
to get the
to get
883. But the 150 is truly estimate. We did back to the envelope calculations, and should be a little bit on the conservative side. I hope it is, because then we can build this balance. If we don't get that, there's 150,000 exposure, and that would come out of this opening balance of 295.
We go
We're down to a very low amount.
Yeah.
This kind of speaks to what Diane was talking about.
Yeah.
Only having 145,000 in this account is simply less than what we want to have. I mean,
When was the last
no-
time it was that low?
I don't know. We've been. I have to go back prior to 23.
Yeah.
It comes to the point where Desi wants you to have carry over a year. If we carried over a year, then we'd be having close to $1 million in this account.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you can't count on, and this speaks to what was said earlier, is what if the special ed director walks into Jeff and Mike in December and says, I have a student we've been working with since September, and we've tried everything, but the student really needs to be placed outside, just to go to a special, and that costs 150,000.
Yeah.
We can't be in that position. And I know we have that extra cushion on the town side that we established, that stabilization.
Right.
But in order to meet those requirements, you have to be 20 over your current year's budget by 25%. We shouldn't have to rely on that. The school system should be self-sufficient in this category. So we've got to find a way over the years to build
it back up.
So if there's any cushion, if it comes in better than 150, we should let it go and continue to try to build this account.
Yeah.
Because this is the only, I call it a revolver, even though Andrew correctly says it's really a grant. We treat it like a revolver.
Yeah.
This is an account where we don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. This is student parking, Peter. We have, you can see there, we already have 179,000 funds remaining at the end of, at projected at the end of 27. So, you know, we could raise the parking from $1 to $2 or whatever, that 28,000, the revenue would go to 56, et cetera. But there, as Mike had said earlier, there's limited things that we can use to use that up. It can pay for some plowing,
So
it can pay for some line striping, maintenance, et cetera.
So what you know, if you look at the payroll for 24, which was 7,800, that was custodian snow removal. Last year it was 1,800. We're going to be over the 7,800 so far for this year. So we don't budget for snow removal out of our operation. Everything comes out of pocket. So and the strict guidelines.
So in a year like this, is there days you won't have enough in here?
No, I mean, we do, right now. But what I'm saying is, you know, we have very strict guidelines by the state on what we can and can't charge. So,
The good news here is you got some money for paving that we can pay for. It doesn't go to capital. It's the
Yeah, that is good.
benefit.
What about the electric chargers that are in some of these, you know?
I mean, they comes through the town and I think we spend more than we receive.
That is correct.
Gonna be honest.
Well, that was my point. Can you put the expense in for those?
We pay for what?
Yeah, can it go, the ones that are in the school parking lot, can that expense go through this revolver?
Yeah, I think I mean, yeah. I mean, it's really
This is the
small.
beginning.
So, no, this is for, they have electric chargers
Oh, yeah.
installed at like the lake and I do, Wheelock and, you know, there's an expense to that. Right?
There is, I mean, I think last year.
It's just a thought. It's not, it can't be a lot of money. but
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah,
Really?
it's minimal electric to run it. It's not a lot.
Yeah. Okay,
So we can look at that for sure.
all right.
Okay, we go to the next one, the Warrant FTE. Let's talk about that, added an additional program. That began at 26, and that's why the revenue jumped from 26,000 to 92,000. And the expenses went up. Well, still we're sticking with almost 150,000, 149,000 at the end of 27 in that category.
So I also do want to talk about, so we think that there will be some money that we'll be able to put aside. And we're looking at upgrading our playgrounds. Because it's part of students can use the playgrounds.
Oh, that's
And we're
cool.
looking to be creative, just like we do with the use of school property, where we offset our fields. We're going to do the same before and after school. So it's saving the town money to accounts.
Yeah, good.
That was a good example. Next one says the rental, the school rentals. And the revenue there, you can see it's 40,000 basically, but back a couple of years and going forward as well. The allocated payroll is the custodians who are working in the fields, football games and the basketball, et cetera, all of the events. There are some direct expenses and that rental revolver.
Yeah, so
Allocated.
So I'm gonna, so if you look at 2026, this is where it's a good example where we, instead of putting the baseball field through the capital, we paid it through the revolving account.
Yeah, that was a big, 225, it's like over $300,000, which
Yeah.
this fund was able to contribute 225,000. That's terrific. And that $30,000, I thought it was going to end 27. That's the
27.
last year.
27.
That's the last year. Then that's the 30,000 contribution.
Football field.
Yes, yeah, so that will go away.
So it will go away, but what we would like to do with it is continue to do that. So when the new field comes along, that we have to replace it,
You'll have,
we will have it.
yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Athletics. Fees. An average of about $340,000 for years and continuation, so that there's been so many increases in fees. There's some allocated payroll again, it's custodial help. There's certainly the big numbers there, the direct expenses for transportation, refs, ice rentals, gymnasium rentals, tournament fees, supplies, and some years uniforms, and you'll see a blip every once in a while. We have to replace the football uniform. You get a lot of uniforms to replace. You can have some blips in that number. But again, that's not a big balance, 65,000 at the end of 27.
And I can break that down. So right now the fees are $450 for hockey, so our most expensive sport. $300 for facility rental sports, which is golf, gymnastics, and swimming. $250 for all other high school sports, and $225 for our middle school students.
Athletics. Nope.
And all this breaks even.
That's the concept of a revolver.
Yeah.
Except for the future.
Then preschool. You can see the revenue going up because the rates are changing. Up 9,000 for full day, 5,100 for a half day. 27. 26, the rates are 7,200 and 5,000 for half day, full day and half day.
9,000 full day.
Full day.
So I would just add to that, as of this morning, we have 131 students on the wait list at the preschool.
Oh, yeah, we've been on the wait list for.
So,
Rolling out.
it's a space issue for us, right? We just don't have space to do it.
But it's
So
a,
competitive.
60 seats.
but it's
Yeah.
a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
To put it in the perspective, our twins this last year between the two of them, it's just shy of 60.
Right, and I think that's.
This
the
doesn't
point,
seem so
because
expensive.
even with-
No, I spent $100 grand on
Well,
three
that
per
is,
year.
that was
They
the
were
point that
taking-
I've been making.
Yeah,
my entire
Neighborhood
salary
is
for
that,
both.
Hey,
It's like it's
you
cheaper
know,
than
full day
day.
kindergarten.
Oh, it's way cheaper.
3,500.
It's a
It's like,
bargain.
you know, so that's 7,000
Yeah.
for my twins, but I said, keep in mind, we
Yeah.
paid 60 grand last year for preschool.
Exactly.
I don't care, and I'm also here to tell you, I told the other 220 students, and they probably wouldn't care. At least that was my.
So you could make it higher.
Well, that was actually why I asked in the beginning whether 3,500 was the full.
But it's probably not like
Ceiling, I'm
full
not
day,
I'm
right?
not
It's probably
saying
like 9 to
that-
3 or something, or
Full day,
What is
it's
it?
a full
Yeah,
student,
not,
yeah.
not.
yeah,
saying
but like for a
you
lot
know,
of us, that
it's,
just doesn't work. Like,
uncontrolled
you know,
spigot, but,
like
you
I
know,
needed
when you
something
think
like 7
about
to 5.
People are coming
Like,
off
you
of
know, like
full day
it's neither
preschool
here.
Right.
in Massachusetts where you're paying out both ends. Full day kindergarten at 3,500 is a real bargain, especially for what they
Yeah,
get.
I mean, I think the preschool increase was important because it makes it's still much cheaper than even
Yeah.
a lot of what you're saying for preschool. I do think it's mindful though that we are one of very few
Yeah,
towns
5
in
to
the
6
state,
or
yeah,
something.
we don't offer it, so that is another, we can charge more, but I do think like the benefits of full day kindergarten are now proven, but yes, it is still a cost, it's not cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
compared to what-
Yeah, even when you layer in, MAP or anything
Yeah.
else for aftercare, it's still gonna be a, after tax, massive savings.
Yeah.
And if there's a cohort, it's that moving to kindergarten, I think that gets it, so.
Yes.
And the state law says that because the state reimburses us 50% for kindergarten kids, that 50% of your cost has to come out of the monthly.
That's why it's 9,000 for preschool and 3,500, okay?
But,
All right.
I just took my breath away.
That's all right. But remember, raisins to 12,000, but you can't still put a physics teacher in there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, it's too bad.
And the last one is music. 100,000 or revenues for every single year. And about 100,000 in expenses between the teachers who are teaching and the outside people who are teaching. And they've got $17,000 left in the bank.
Yeah.
So now. So.
Well, thank you, Ed.
Michael, I thank you.
I'm gonna say that you guys should really thank my friend Ed, because you guys have the best auditor in the town, better than the town auditor. He goes through every single line item and he ties everything back, and he spends hours and hours and hours to make sure that my numbers are correct. So
Thank you.
I do want to thank him.
Yeah, he's a keeper. So I have one little quick question that I forgot to ask. It's really quick. The stipends, is that part of collective bargaining? That's fixed. Okay, all right. I thought before we let you go, we have another agenda item, which is the literacy program. That's K to 5. And if you could educate the committee on the need and why we have, we're proposing to have another article on the warrant for it.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So the last couple of years, we've done some pilot testing with our elementary teachers to try to pick up and decide on what a new literacy program would look like for us. So last school year, we had 2 different programs. And when we do a pilot, certain teachers in each grade level volunteer and they do certain lessons for several weeks, report back. We get feedback from students, from parents, from teachers. So we spent the whole year doing that last year, and the feedback wasn't that great with the 2 programs that we looked at. People really weren't overwhelmingly supporting it. They didn't love the type. 2 different programs, one very traditional, and one that had some trade books, but not a lot. Not what teachers want kids reading books. We want our kids reading books, having conversations about books, not reading an excerpt in an anthology that and then answering questions like we did 40 years ago. So what we've been doing now this year is we piloted 2 other programs that went very, very well. One unanimously was supported by our elementary teachers, and we want to move forward with that program. So as part of that, there is an initial one-time setup fee in terms of buying all the books, the classroom sets of books. It is pretty expensive because you're not buying textbooks per se. You're buying class sets of trade books that kids are going to be reading and having those conversations with it. So that was a really important piece that our teachers wanted. They also wanted to make sure that we could keep our phonics program foundations that we've had great success with for the past 7 or 8 years. So this program that we chose not only has kids picking up books, reading them, having great conversations and writing about it, but allows us to stay with a tried and true program that our kids have done really well in our teachers like with foundation. So that allowed us to do that. So the upfront costs really center around buying the books for the one time and getting teachers manuals for that one time. And then there's teacher training as part of it as well. So that's why we thought, Steve and I, we talked about that at the public hearing, that you say it might qualify for warrant use of free cash based on it's a one-time purchase, not a reoccurring operation budget like some of our other curriculum might be. So we're teachers are excited about it. We think this would be great with our kids, and we would love your support on that as part of a warrant article for purchase.
Yeah, I did look into this question of how it could be funded. And I looked at, sort of our capital budget. I thought maybe it could be funded there, but it doesn't really fit in our policies for capital budget. It's not, we have real clear definitions of what's a capital item. And so when I looked into this, I figured, I learned a lot. There was these programs like literacy and math. They go through a cycle of like 6, 7, 8 years sometimes of updates. And so the biggest, there's the first year, there's small costs, and then this third year, this piece he's talking about is the biggest piece. And then there's some ongoing small expenses. So he's only talking about this purchase. In other words, the policy would be just the one-time component of this, not what was done in piloting it, and not what the annual, cost is. That's all going to be stay in the operating budget. It's really just this one-time piece. So that
What's
was,
the amount?
221,000.
Okay, I will absolutely support it.
I think so that's, and there's a small amount of grant money that you can get.
Mhm.
The only question
Which did help us out on the pilots. The
Yeah.
state put out some grant money for
Yeah.
looking at pilots, and that helped us out the last couple of years.
The only question I had is that the state's looking, I think I sent it to
You
you.
did,
The
yeah.
state is looking at this to try to, they're trying to put legislation forward to sort of require this.
They're going to do it.
And I think it was the Senate bill had in it a funding component.
They do.
So my question is like, how can we do this so that we can take it, if there is funding, we can take advantage of that and not have to use free cash?
So I think the key thing is if there's funding. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and I've heard lots of promises from the state, and they never seem to come to fruition. So, I mean, I think for our perspective, we really can't wait. We need to do this next year. So if it doesn't work out, we're going to try to, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to need to get some kind of mechanism to get the program in here. So what Steve's talking about is the state wants districts to move away from balanced literacy and more to a more phonemic awareness and science of reading model, which this program is, coupled with our foundations. It's really a good model. But there's there's districts that are fighting this, like Lexington, for instance, is fighting this like crazy. They do not want to leave the balanced literacy model. They feel like they have great success with it. I would argue, I could probably make a good argument that we've had pretty good success with balanced literacy here too. So I think it's something that is I think educators are upset that politicians are telling us what to teach and what we have to teach and how to do it. And I think that's it's always been local control in Massachusetts. You go to Florida, you go to California, you go to Texas, there's statewide adoptions of programs and everyone uses the same thing. Whereas, New England here in Massachusetts, it's local control. You get to choose what you want to use in your classroom, districts choose, and they make that decision. So it's a little tension right now that's going on between, I know, the Teachers Association, the Superintendent Association, DESE, legislators. It's interesting. I had a meeting on the snow day of Tuesday with the joint education co-chair who was sponsoring some of this. And we were kind of going back and forth. There was a whole committee of us talking with him, and he supports I think the most important thing that we're looking for is a waiver, because the state may come out and say, these are the five programs you can use. And if you pick another one, then you have to go through a waiver process. So right now, Foundations is approved in that. Bookworms, the other program, is not yet, but we've been assured that because it's a science of reading, they'll give us the opportunity for a waiver, and we think it'll be grandfathered in. Yeah. I mean, the excitement that our teachers have with this program, they're ready to go. We can't wait another year and just hope there's going to be money coming down the pike, because we've all been there and seen that. So I think it's really important. We really ask for your support on this, and hopefully it will pass through town meeting.
So lightning strikes. The legislature does what it says it's going to do and provides money.
Yeah.
Then the money, if we provide it at town meeting, which I also support, the money we provide then just returns to free cash.
So you're saying they're actually going to allocate money before the next school year to get it done? Is that what you're saying? For lightning striking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's actually the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that actually happening, but it won't be, I don't think it will be just a straight allocation to districts. I think it'll probably be some kind of grant program that we'll have to apply for that. And it wouldn't be just 1 year, it'd be several years. So if we get that initial startup, the operating costs that Steve mentioned could probably get into that grant. Yeah, I think we'd still be able to take, like I said, we've used the state money in their grants to put it out itself in a year. So that's really helped us out. But I love your optimism, but I can't imagine that's going to happen.
And the Red Sox is going to win it all this year.
Could do that.
There's also language in the bill that if districts don't have the money to purchase one of these curriculums because they are so cost prohibitive, they're developing a free curriculum. So some of this, like, money towards could also be interpreted as a free curriculum is
Got
going to be developed by the state that you can then access.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen.
Well,
Yeah.
there's already a fund, but I don't know any districts that are actually.
Okay. Any other questions on that article? So I think it's gonna go to the select board. They have to put it on the warrant. Tomorrow's their meeting, right? Along with the stabilization fund. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for these gentlemen that have endured a long session?
So what would you like again? You told us you wanted something from us. You got it? Okay, Michael. Just wanted to make sure we have.
Class side, yeah.
Last side, over the year, that's right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes, just want to make sure we have that.
Well, we really appreciate
I
your
appreciate the work
time
you're doing.
and,
Thank you.
and you're all welcome to stay, but your presence is duly noted. Thank you. Oh,
Not everybody all wants.
You need to take that article. I would happily take it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot.
here, you can take this. This is my research I did
I'm
on it.
interested in the.
Because the question that people will ask is why isn't this in the operating? Why are we using free cash for this? Why are they- This is research I did.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I don't have to take it from you, but I've been, because my kids just have gone through all this breeding stuff and they were in the pilots. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah. My kid has been in all these pilots, so I've been like doing the survey and stuff. I had like 4 of my kids' teachers were here.
That's particularly really is.
Okay, so,
Well, which one is you? I know it's like mine's sorry.
that's the most people I've seen in a work committee meeting ever.
One of Jules's teachers.
I think half the school department was saying.
No, I recognize many.
Yeah.
I had about 5 also.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Two fair weather friends.
Well, arguably, this next one is. quite constructive still.
All right, so, our next agenda item is modeling, so these are just scenarios. We're not gonna choose one tonight. This is just to educate everybody on what we did in the analysis. So we're not voting on this, we're not choosing one. We just want to make sure everybody understands what the range of options are. I guess is what I would put it. You know, I put together a little slideshow, but before I go through it, I just want to give credit to Joe. I mentioned in my email, Joe has done an incredible amount of work on spreadsheets that I sent to you, which is this PowerPoint is a summary of all those spreadsheets. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Joe.
And there is a handout of some of the exhibits that we'll walk through. That's a big, it's a big page. It's the big pages. We'll walk through that in a couple minutes, but if you could, yeah, that would be great. So I think I think you probably all understand this, but in case anybody's watching this, I thought it would be helpful to go through some of this stuff. Next slide. So, this override is different. We've talked about it, right? It's a 2-year override package. One override vote at this town meeting, and the entire override will be raised in the 2027 tax levy. The funds will be used to fund the 27 operating budget for both the schools and the town. It's an override for both schools in the town, municipal side departments. And it includes a stabilization fund deposit for fiscal 28. And then it avoids a second override vote in 28. So the advantage is we get some predictable 2-year planning horizon for departments here. Next slide. So again, this is a bit repetitive, but it's, it's one override amount raised in 27, and it funds both the 27 operating budget and then the stabilization fund deposit for fiscal 28. Next slide.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question there?
Yeah.
So let's assume deposit and pass it over.
Yeah,
We put a chunk of it into the stabilization fund,
right.
but that can only be released by 2/3 vote of town meeting. Right?
Well, I'm sorry, the vote, okay, the vote to
Create the stabilization fund, that's a majority.
that's a
vote.
majority vote. The vote to pass an override is a majority vote.
Oh, it's majority?
It's majority, no, it's a majority vote. To pass an override, this is a misconception that people have. To pass an override, it's just another budget. And our operating budget every year is a majority vote. We don't have, so, it's majority at the election. So it's a majority at town meeting and it's a majority at the election. There's misperception out there that the town meeting needs to have a 2/3 vote to
But
pass
the
an override.
30-year vote on jail, for that.
That's a debt
Like debt
exclusion. That is a
exclusions
2/3 vote.
So I think just to give a little bit of context, we used to use stabilization funds as an other available fund in the operating budget. When you use stabilization funds, that requires a 2/3 vote. So for Medfield in particular, we always had a 2/3 vote on our operating budget. And I think that's part of where the confusion came from that. We no longer do that.
We haven't had that in a long time.
Probably about 4 years.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
stabilization funds or sewer stabilization funds, they've gone away. So it's just a simple majority.
So,
Same would be for.
so that.
So this,
applies to-
okay, so fast forward then to 2028.
Right.
To take money out of a stabilization fund. You're shaking your head.
Shaking my head. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. I talked to the Department of Revenue.
Yeah,
And they gave an opinion that the override stabilization fund would be a special stabilization fund. And with the law that the municipal empowerment that passed in 2017 or 2018, this would just be a simple majority.
Good. Oh, good.
Wow.
well, that makes it easier, yeah.
Yeah.
Our job's so easy now.
So it's majority going in, majority coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They simplified special stabilization funds versus the general stabilization fund.
Okay,
But we had noticed, we were doing some little Blizzard research, certain towns were using 2/3 as a threshold and others were not, so we asked DOR for an opinion on that.
okay, good.
Just go home.
You would think our lawyers would know the answer to that off the top of their head. Yeah, okay. All right. No, no, has nothing to do with you. You don't represent the town, do you?
No.
Okay, so this slide, so what we've done is, this is a summary of, again, a lot of modeling. We'll get into the details, but the total override that's going to be raised in 27 and the tax levy will be split, the dollar amounts will be split in these two columns, right? Under the different growth scenarios. So for example, the let's say the 3.9 town, the 3.9 school, 2.8 town growth scenario, the operating portion would be $1,078,000. And then the amount we would put in the stabilization fund would be $957. So the total override that we would pass in 27 would be a $2 million override. Okay. This is just math, summarizing it here, right?
How did you guys come up with the FY 27 versus FY 28 fraction?
That's that big sheet. We're gonna go through that.
Mhm.
That's what this guy worked on so hard.
Most of the stuff.
We'll go through that in a few minutes. So next slide. So once you had the override amounts, we're able to determine what the tax impact is, right? And so this is a summary of the property tax impact for an average single family home. Again, it's one override amount on the 27 levy. And the middle section there, the 2027 property tax increase. There's two components to it. There's the what Joe calls will happen, the amount within Prop 2.5 that your taxes go up every year. You know, we don't have an override, but there's always, you know, an increase in taxes. That's $401 based upon an average single family assessed value of $1,028,000.
And that figure comes from the state, so that wasn't me.
Yeah, these
specific number out of thin air.
Yeah, these are just, you know, we use the tax impact calculator on the DLS.
Actually, the state has calculated out what the average price of a home
No.
is. State estimate.
No. The average assessed value comes from Yvonne. That's done here. The tax impact of 401 comes from inputting the amount of revenue that we're increasing under Prop 2.5 into a tax calculator that is on the DLS website. And you tell them what town you're from, the amount of the override, and it tells you what the average. Okay, so that's what that is. And then the override piece above Prop 2.5, that's going to cover 2027 growth and put a deposit into the stabilization fund, is going to range from $165 to $782 based upon the range of potential override amounts. And we'll go through that. There's a sheet on that. So when you add the 401 to that range, you get the total of 566 to 1183 as the total property tax increase based upon, you know, the ranges, right? And then there's no additional override in 2028. Next slide. So this is our question as a committee, right? That we have to wrestle with is what's the right recalibrated level of service under all these different scenarios. You know, the full level service, we know what that, there's no cuts associated with that, right? Then, you know, you get into having some cuts, maybe maintaining some core, and maybe that's the 3.9 and 2.8 scenario. That results in $600,000 of cuts shared between the school and the town.
It will be less though now on the school side.
No.
Because we're comparing to 5% level service and we just went over a 4.6% level service budget.
Yeah,
Right.
but when you see how we calculated it, we start with the prior year number and add 3.9% to it. So,
Okay.
yeah, you'll see.
Okay.
You'll see. It doesn't change it. And then, you know, the different, you know, you can see there's different levels of cuts, right? Depending on the point here is that the less of an override, the more cuts we have to make. Does everybody understand that? So if we say you only have 2.5% for schools and towns, it's $1.2 million of cuts that we have to make. And so there's a spectrum here, right? And then the worst one is, it's not even on here, if there's no override. I think that's like $1.6 million or something like that. So, so this, you know, this in the scenarios I picked, we could talk about this. We picked this. I picked a 3.9 because that was a recommended amount by the superintendent. And that represented, I think, like a 22% reduction from level service. So the town I reduced by 22%. So that's how you come up with the 2.8. So in other words, 5% down to 3.9 for the schools represents a 22% reduction. 3.6 down to 2.8 represents a 22%.
You mean 22% of 5%, not
Yes.
22% of total.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
Thanks.
5%. Right. So so that's I just picked midpoints and did the math. It's basically these are the I did say, well, I left it at a floor of 2.5 because I think when you get down to those numbers, it's probably not worth doing an override. If you're going to do it for such a small number.
Right. I agree with that. Can I ask a proudly unfair question? Say we go to the dark green, 3.9, 2.8, just for argument's sake. I'm not saying that's the number we've said. Are we pretty confident sitting here that for fiscal 28, we will have allotted enough to deal with whatever health insurance premiums trouble comes down the pike, and it will be in pretty good shape in dealing with that without seeking an override for fiscal 2028?
That's the working assumption that we spent all that time on the 28 budget.
Right.
And we spent time looking at all these fixed shared costs. We have a pretty good. I think it's a pretty. I mean, anything can happen. But it's our best
I think
guess.
as good as possible.
I think,
Yeah.
I think what would happen is that they're still gonna have to cut, even though we'll have money in the stabilization. When the schools take whatever number we decide on, back out whatever they have to back cuts, and then use their basic model for payroll, et cetera, and expenses, they'll come up to a number that's more money than we have in stabilization, and they'll have to do other cuts in addition to using that, whatever we put in the stabilization. They'll have to make other cuts just to get down to that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is that this is we're doing an override, but 4 out of the 5 scenarios have cuts associated with them.
Got it. Great.
Everybody
I appreciate
understand that?
this chart
Okay,
very
yeah.
much.
All right, next slide.
The 600 votes, that's for school and town combined.
Yes.
Now, yeah, you have behind that, we have behind that,
we have all the details. Yeah. That's the next slide.
Yeah.
So this gives you the breakout. So you can see the 606 is broken out between 490,000 for school and 115,000 for the town. Under that scenario, 3.9, 2.8. And it just, and you could see that I did put on this slide the no override, which is the 1.8 scenario for both town and school. That results in $1.6 million of cuts. Okay. So.
By the way, this represents a ton of work by you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I just summarized what he did, so he deserves all the credit. But so that's I think this slide will be helpful as we look at the priority of cuts. That could be one way we could look at this. There's a number of different things we have to consider. This is one of them. Next slide. So it's a 2-year package. This is just summarizing what I've already said. We have to balance the impact to taxpayers, the affordability question, which what's the amount of money people can feel comfortable agreeing to pay versus the level of service and the sustainability of those services. And there's a continuum that that we talked about that clarifies what those trade-offs are. It's not going to be easy. I think, the lower scenarios require moderate to deep cuts, and then the high scenarios are severe. They're drastic. So next slide. Okay, so this is just, I don't know if you can make this. So this gives you the components of that. I have one slide that sort of summarized this, but this gives you the different pieces of how much of this is within Prop 2.5 and how much is outside, and how much is put into the stabilization fund, right? So you can see, for example, the 3.9 and the 2.8 scenario. It's a $1,078,000, and that's $401 impact to within Prop 2.5, 257, which is for the override piece. So the 27 piece is 658, and then the piece that we have to put in for 28 is 957, which is $226 average, and it comes out to a total of 884.
Wait, the 226 is,
That's
the
the amount of taxes we're asking for to take care of 28.
but 28 will have the 2.5 increase.
Correct.
So where does that show up?
That's well, why don't we go to the big spreadsheet? It's probably easier to explain if walking through that.
Because, as I often
And I'll let you walk
broken
through.
record, but if you went with the lowest, the 2.5, and the amount put into the stabilization fund of is $247, $247,210 is the lowest amount. Does that really deal with our fiscal 2028 problems?
No, it deals with it the same way that we're dealing with it in 27, which is like not a lot. Right, it's the same. It's like it's basically it's
Well,
a 50-50. I don't know how you guys come up
I
with
mean,
that number,
I
but
disagree with you a lot, but if we put the top number, 1.593 million,
Which one number are you talking about?
the
If we're,
the 247,210, which is the assumed amount for the stabilization fund
Yeah,
for fiscal 28, if we do the 2.5.
yeah.
I'm saying that's not really gonna help much at all in fiscal 2028, is it?
Well, you have to understand that comes along with a lot of cuts that we're assuming won't be reinstated in 28.
that's
Those cuts are not, where assumption is that million over whatever number is, 1.2 million cuts doesn't get reinstated in 28.
right. That's the main assumption to make, is once the cut is made, and when we look at the big sheet, you'll see that we've assumed kind of this, we reset what.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Right,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So if it's 2.5.
it was
the
a good
next year
question.
is
It
not
wasn't
gonna
clear what you
reset.
were asking, but I get it now. Like, yeah, sorry.
All right, I'm gonna let Joe walk through these big spreadsheets.
Why don't you tell for Ashley and, what that was a separate, this isn't it, that wasn't, the big ones were in.
Oh, okay, all this,
They're on that spreadsheet.
yeah,
On this spreadsheet, it was attached separately.
yeah, it's in the okay, the packet online that you have access to. It's Appendix B. Maybe you can go to that now. So Appendix B. So this slide plus the next slide is one big spreadsheet. So you have all the pieces. It's just, broke. We couldn't get it all onto one page on the slide. So go ahead. I'm going to let you walk through. Which one do you want to talk about first?
How about we do the 3.9 and the 2.8, since that's in.
You only need to do one. Yeah.
That one's in the packet.
We gave you two, but we're only going to walk through one because they're both the same.
Mm-hmm.
So
the 3.9 and the 2.8, you know, we're trying to model out what happens in fiscal year 2027 plus 2028. And so, you know, I think hopefully the footnotes are helpful. Trying to explain this as well, you know, the revenue figures, the shared fixed costs, we've already seen, you know, the data there, those inputs. You know, so really really all we're trying to do here is to say, okay, the 3.9% and the 2.8% growth. That 3.9, the reason the figure, that's what Dr. Marsden had recommended. The 2.8 was if you do the same 22% reduction from schools fully funded level service to Dr. Marsden's recommendation, and then tried to replicate that at the town level.
Mm-hmm.
So this provides, you know, in the blue side, you know, this is what the an override would look like if we were just doing a one-off override for fiscal year 27. It'd be $1,078,696. And then
Okay, right there, yeah.
yeah. And then the thought in talking with Steve and Ed was, well, let's take, you know, what would we do for the stabilization? And this is the main assumption here. And I think, yeah, Emily gets to that question is, and you know, it's not that, you know, we're back up to 5 or 6% for level service. It's we've reset what level service means, which is the very uncomfortable assumption.
We've recalibrated a definition of level service.
So does this solve FY28 only if that big assumption holds true that level service has been recalibrated? If that hasn't happened, then the answer is no.
Well, it's hard enough to plan for 1 year, and
Sure.
we're trying to plan for 2. So I mean, I think like
Yeah, you know, and part of the exercise here too is, you know, trying to keep in mind Whale Street School is going to be coming down the pike, and you know, if we're asking for an operational override in fiscal year 27, you know, we're going to have to do it again in 28, more likely than not. You know, let's do just one fell swoop.
Yeah, and the you know, it's an important concept for people to understand, is that we're doing an override, but we're cutting under most of these scenarios. We're recalibrating what level service is. We're not just saying we're gonna do an override to get to level service. But that's one option theoretically, but under all these other scenarios, it's you recalibrate level service and you make the cuts, and they don't get restored in the second year.
yeah, it's good to be clear. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And I'm sorry, all the whole reason for the multiple scenarios too is born out of multiple conversations that I've had with folks, which is that bottom line question, which is, well, what's this going to cost me? It's like, well, here's what it would cost the average, but there's a couple of scenarios utilizing numbers that assumed the assessed value lower than the average. It was like 650 and 850, and then there were 4 scenarios above that. $1,025,000, $1,075,000, 225, and then the chart tops out at 2,650,000. So I use that as well. But so that was, you know, because the conversation, you know, whenever you talk to somebody, well, the average tax bill will go up by $655. That may not appropriately capture everybody. It's just meant to give a little bit more insight into how this might impact the individual based on their own situation.
I think Brent has had a question on the
Let's be in here. And I don't know if you actually sent us the wrong. Let's be in here. The dollar amount that arises for the action past levy.
Yeah, they override it.
Well, what I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I want to go to look at, say, so what seems like a figure of merit to me, I'm having trouble backing it out of this. To me, the figure of merit would be set aside new growth, and set aside other forms of revenue. I just simply ask 2.5% increase on the tax levy from the previous year, right? Which will take a quantum leap, the override, to the growth of 2.5%. Is that number sufficient to cover the increase in, let's say, the salaries of the teachers, the police, and the fire?
No.
Because it's not now. And the question will be after the override, will it now be? And if it's no, then it's an insufficient override because we'll continue to have the structural problem.
No, the assumption is that the cuts get made.
Well,
and they don't get restored.
Well, so yes, great. So that's the question I would want to know. Right?
Yeah.
Because so if the cuts mean we lost, let's say, 6 FTE teachers,
right?
And so I reduce the expectation of teacher salary growth, right? By that amount,
right?
Do I reach sustainability? Just on the basis of growth 2.5% on the tax levy, because that's to me that is me. Yes, there's other forms of revenue, but to me, like that is
you do with the over. You do
for all these overrides.
No. Yeah, because the working assumption is you make deeper cuts for a smaller override. So and it's sort of that's what the sheet shows. So you're like you're
Well, I consider it pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I would just want to do the calculation.
Yeah, I mean the Excel spreadsheet has it all on it. What's an appendix? Oh, appendix C is the that's the cuts, right?
So
I still have a question on appendix A.
Yeah, so this well, it may make sense to actually go to this big spreadsheet, Brent. Go to the big spreadsheet. We were looking at the 3.9 scenario. So let's take the school department, okay? So you see the 1.8%, right? That's within 2.5 or 27. To grow at 3.9% means that they need 1.7, okay? So the difference between the 799 and the 1739 is the 900,000 of an override amount, okay? So it's above it's overriding above 2.5 to get to the 3.9%. You need another $900,000. Now you go to 28, and we already know what the 28 forecasted prop the increase is within prop 2.5. It's the 2.1%, right? So we know that number results in a $950,000 increase, okay? And we're going to put in a stabilization fund the difference between that and what we need to grow at 3.9%, another 3.9%, it's $1.8 million. The difference between the $1.8 million and the 950 is the 857. So the combination of the 857 and the 939, that's the combined override that you're approving in 27. And it, you repeat it for the town and you add it up, and it comes to $2 million. And so what this says is, I've taken care of 2 years of growing a budget at 3.9%, assuming that they make the cuts from level service to this new recalibrated service level of a 3.9 budget.
So the school budget that just came in, that we just looked at, was 27, was 46,646,000. And this says 46,338 is the amount of money what the budget should be at 3.9%. So that difference of about 300,000 is all they have to cut.
Well, we have it on it's on the spreadsheet.
It is right because it was 600, but they dropped because of the the kindergarten and the pre-K.
Yeah.
That should tie into the other spreadsheet.
It's because we're comparing to fives. So I think that's where it gets confusing.
Yeah,
Yeah, because this was done before the
Mhm.
4.5.
See that.
I'm just sitting here thinking, sort of this is gonna be so hard to explain at town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why I would like to get back to appendix A, because like I'm very confused about for the average assessed value. I understand the 401. I understand the 257. I don't really understand this lower part. I get that 957 is what you set aside, but what is the 226 number? Where is it?
where are
coming
you
from?
looking?
So the same scenario we've been discussing, 3.9, 2.8%.
Yeah.
What is the 226 number?
So the 226, so that is, if we're going to fund the FY 28 stabilization fund, the increase for the stabilization fund. Here, this 957, 308 number in here.
No,
That number,
I know what that number is, but
it's just that number put into the tax calculator. That's all it is.
Yeah.
but shouldn't you shouldn't need to put that in the tax calculator. You put that money aside. The number you should be adding there, in my opinion, is your 2.5%.
No, you have to put it in because you're increasing the tax levy in 27. You only get that money if you increase the tax levy in 27.
If we don't create the FY 28 stabilization fund.
Oh, okay, sorry, forgive me. I thought you were trying to say what the taxes were in 28.
No,
No,
we're just trying to
no.
say.
I feel like we might want to write that down.
It's related to,
If you know.
well, it'll be another $400, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be.
Forgive me.
No, but yeah, that's what I was trying to explain with the footnote 5 there, to basically say taxes are going to increase by this much. If this fund is approved and funded, it'll go up a little bit more to take that in.
Every year, the taxes are gonna go up, let's say $400. That's gonna.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I just misread this.
Yeah.
Forgive me,
But
yeah.
I do think, Emily, with what you're raising is, I think that's gonna be, it's very helpful for us to see it this way. I think that's gonna be really confusing for people. Like, people are gonna want the bottom line number.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is incredibly helpful for us to see
Yeah.
how it breaks out.
That's why I did this summary, like, I think we could combine, we could do something between this and what we did on this slide. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So the bottom line is that the average increase,
You want appendix A and B,
A,
all right?
Actually, yes.
is gonna range
Oh, sorry.
from 566 to 1183. If we do the stabilization fund, which we think we're all supporting, but like, I guess what I would ask is, when are we as a committee gonna, well, I guess we're just talking about stuff, so I won't put the cart before the horse, but at some point we have to say, like, this is what we are backing as a group.
Right.
And
And
then I would like to know at town meeting, can someone stand up and like change it? Like,
Anything can happen at town meeting. Doesn't mean it'll pass.
Right.
It doesn't mean it'll
You're
pass.
changing the budget. So the override article is just a second budget. But people would be making changes.
but
to
right,
that.
can't someone get up to the mic and be like, yeah, I wanted.
That can happen any year.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
but that was also the idea behind this was we're gonna have to, as a committee, recommend something. So I'll send if you send the Excel sheets, you can see all the inputs too, but it's got all.
We have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he sends
Okay.
it to us.
But the idea also was to look at this and see, okay, what do all of these scenarios look like?
Yeah,
across the
it's
board.
tough because you're like, you're doubling it, right?
Yeah.
If we do
I mean,
9 and
this
2.
is, this
2.8.
is obviously too much for this is done, we did this for us as a committee.
Yeah, and thank you.
To look at the different options, and we won't, it'll be one scenario going to town meeting, from the warrant committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Did Ashley still have her hand up?
Can we,
How do, Ashley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I had a question and maybe a recommendation. I know this is based on the assessed value of over $1 million. I forget who I was talking to, but there was a calculator on their town website of how you could determine what the value was for you if you were to increase, if
Yeah.
you were to increase by X percent, any resident can go in and see, okay, what does that mean for me? Which
Yeah.
might be helpful.
Yes, and I think they're planning on doing
Yeah, we
that.
had one in 2021 for the
We just have to decide what the override amount is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no, they're planning on doing that. So,
And our target for this is before the warrant hearing or right after the warrant hearing?
well, I think we should vote on it after the warrant hearing. Doesn't mean that we can't express a preference before, but I think we should wait to vote on it till after the warrant hearing. If that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know what other people think, but that would be my suggestion. When we don't need to do it tonight. But,
Oh, God.
no, I think it's getting late, and I wasn't planning on doing it tonight. I just wanted to educate everybody on, this dynamic of what we're trying to accomplish with 2 years budgets, one override for 2 years budget, and the associated cuts that come along with this. For all options except level service, I think that's so I think, but we will need to, eventually recommend an option. And so think about it. Think about where you think, I think it might be helpful to look at the priority of cuts that we asked both the school and town put together and see where they fall, like in the different scenarios and what's important and, that kind of stuff. And
Hopefully you all got 25 emails on the control officer thing too.
the animal control.
Hopefully I wasn't the only one getting those.
They didn't have my email, fortunately, so.
Fortunately,
I was trying to be on vacation, and it was the only thing that was dinging.
And he did his wrong, right?
I didn't do it. It was just printed wrong.
But Steve, I think
God bless.
you did make a comment earlier, which I think is another point that's helpful for everybody to consider, is that except in a scenario where we do just the Prop 2.5 and that's it, we're talking about tax increases across the board for either significant cuts all the way up to fairly large tax increases for level service.
Yeah,
I like that point can't not be stressed enough.
I think the issue we have is that the significant cuts brings us back to the 1.8 and the 2.1.
Yeah.
And if we really believe that our revenue is going to only be, let's go to 27, 28, and 29, do we think it's going to blossom to 3%? Or is it going to stay at that 2 point, right in that neighborhood of 2%? If it's in that 2% neighborhood going forward, item for item, then hate to say it, you want to get down to the 2.5 as soon as possible. That's awful, big cuts. But because it's kind of to Frank's point, because if we do the 3.9% budget, that's great. They don't have to cut as much, but there will be an issue. I can almost guarantee in 28, 29 that we won't have. They'll have to make more cuts.
I understand your point. I think it's a good point. But here's the thing that, in my mind, sort of balances it out. That is the state hospital, right?
Oh well.
So the state hospital will add what, $1.2 million of property tax revenue.
Well, I thought it was like 600 was the net. Used to be.
The property tax revenue.
Okay.
That formula had a bunch of expenses. That was that budget.
That's right.
So,
Right.
but the property tax revenue is gonna go up by, $1.2 million based on Yvonne's, latest
Yeah.
look at it. So that, probably will happen in 29.
Yeah.
So,
So 2 3.
so that's, that I think balances out your concern a little bit. That's how I got comfortable with it long term, but anyway. So, if it's quick.
So the original superintendent, the original school committee vote for the 5.02 did include the K to 5 curriculum. It was included in that. Now that they took that out.
No,
I don't
no, it
think
was
so.
not.
That's
It
not
was
what I got
not.
out of tonight.
No, it was not in there. I confirmed that.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it was not in there.
I'm sure it was in.
No,
That's, I kind of asked that earlier. I think.
no, it was not in there.
Okay. That takes away my question.
Okay, yeah. So, all right, so I think the only other thing I had on the agenda, unless there's anything else on this,
Well, let's ask,
yeah.
how are we going to deliberate on this and when? Because now, I personally do not know how to choose from any of these different scenarios. The only way I could do it would be to ask, which of these scenarios can I convince myself, at least, that the budget is thereafter sustainable? And of course, that's completely about salary. And I prefer to do it without relying on new growth. I mean, so I understand that new growth may rescue us in 2 years, but I prefer to think that at least the dollar amount associated with the increase in levy year on year after the override happens, sufficient to cover at the moment dollar amounts of increases to fire, rescue, police, and teachers, because those are the three big departments with the biggest increases are by CBA. So that's not the case now, famously and obviously. And I trust what you're saying, that you have built into your calculation the premise that those, by hook or by crook, with the town side or the school side, it will be sustainable. But I want to just see it for myself.
Well, what's your definition? How long of a sustainability do you need to know? I mean, if it's more than 3 years, then I can't help.
Settle for just $2 million of increase that's going to be predicted for next year, and just know that the 2.5% increase in the tax levy covers that, which it doesn't today. And that's why I asked about what will be the new tax levy after the override's over. What will be the new tax levy in 28? Then I could think about in 29 at least. Then I could say, okay, I mean, the salaries change, people retire and new people come in who are cheaper and so forth. So maybe I could say, well, at least to a first approximation, I believe that the salaries are covered in the new budget.
Well, okay, under the assumption that you make the cuts and you don't restore them.
So, I mean,
They're going to avoid making cuts to salaries, though, if we choose a higher number.
I mean, I guess that's that's a downstream question, but I could just simply, we could say, well, in one of these scenarios, I can do the calculation and see, based on what Dr. Marsden did today, that I need to remove 2 FTEs. Okay, and then I can try to back that out on the salary line, try to guess what the increases are and so forth. As one example, it's not the only drivers of cost, but so I'm willing to do all those kinds of calculations myself to convince myself that maybe all these scenarios are sustainable post, at least to, let's say, fiscal 29, or maybe only a few of them are. And I'm making a more conservative request that they're sustainable on the basis just of the 2.5% increase in the tax levy from here on out, not including new growth or additional increases in revenue that may or may not materialize. It's a very, very conservative thing, so more than you're probably asking of these budgets right now. So that's just my personal way of thinking about how I will deliberate on this. But if we need to do this in a working environment because of open meeting law, then we pretty much have tonight and our next meeting. That's it.
Well, I mean, we could also do it at the hearing, at the Warrant Committee hearing.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to want everybody on record as to what we're choosing.
We don't need to vote at that hearing. We could vote on April 6th.
That's all fine with me, but I just want to make sure that we, no pun intended, budgeted enough time to do it. I don't want to make a rash decision on the basis of having, you know.
Well, how do other people think? Is there information that other people need to know beyond what we provided? I know you want to know, you want to check, I guess, the analysis.
Yeah, so I understood you correctly. If you just look at that model with the 2,036,000, that's how much is gonna go into the new levy. You wanna compare that 2 million. Well, that would go in, if this override passed, you'd have 2,036,000 going into the levy, 27. And I think what you're saying is, how does that compare to the normal 2.5% increase?
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Right, so the normal 2% increase is only $1.5 million.
It's like half of it, yeah.
Well, okay, so I gather that everybody around the table finds this really, really simple, and I'm the only one who doesn't. So
No, it's not that. It's just that
let me just do it myself offline.
it's not that it's simple, Brent. It's just that like it's one of those times where like I think I hate to use an expression, but like you can't let perfect be the enemy of good sometimes. Like I didn't know that you can get this like down. I don't know, but
I mean, I was
like,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
no, it's fine. I think I get what you're saying, and I think that would be valuable. I don't know how to do that right now.
Well, I mean, nobody else has to. It's asking for the necessary input.
I would say
it's all
this.
built into the spreadsheets.
Yeah, I think spend some time with the spreadsheet, because I think once you look at the formulas and see how the math is working, I think it'll become very clear. But on this question of sustainability, some towns do this. They do what we're trying to do for a 3 or 4 year period. So they do a big override and put 3 or 4 years in a stabilization fund. Okay. I didn't think that was a good option, given the fact that we have the hospital coming online and we have a school vote coming up, or a school project vote coming up. But I don't know what other people think. I think that the cost of doing a multi 3-4 year override is going to be huge,
right,
on the tax bill.
I think you're 100% correct, just limiting it to the 2 years.
So
I think if you run out anything,
so the only way it works is if, depending on, I mean, forget about the option of we do an override to cover level services. Okay, just forget about that option for the moment. Every other option, there has to be cuts associated with it.
Yeah, well,
and you have to recalibrate what level service is. But once you pass that override, it's baked into the levy every year after that. So it's just math, but.
Well, as you said, Steve, I think the other important point is that it doesn't mean there won't be cuts in 28. It doesn't mean that we won't be completely there.
And we will have a budget, and it'll go to town meeting in 28, and it will go through a similar process, We'll just know we have a bucket of money in the stabilization fund to take care of a certain increase to avoid an override.
It's making it less extreme.
Yes.
For 28.
Yeah.
Because that's, because I think that's
right.
It was one of the first points you made when we started talking about all of this, and I think it's an important one just to circle back to, is that, perception that, it doesn't mean that 28 may not still have challenges. It means there's a little bit of a safety net built in to help mitigate some.
Right, that's what we'll do, is mitigate.
I think it's a pretty, based on all the work we did on the 28 budget, with the revenue and the growth and the fixed cost, I think it's a pretty safe assumption.
Based on what we know today.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, because this year's health insurance threw us a.
Right.
So I mean, based on what we know today, which is all we can operate from.
But we're assuming a pretty healthy increase in health insurance, but you're right. If it triples, then we have a problem.
Or
right?
something else,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
things we can't foresee.
But that's always going to be the case every
Absolutely.
year. Yeah.
I guess Brent, like, just to go back to Brent, like I get where you're coming from, and I absolutely think it's prudent and smart and conservative, but like I think all we're able to somewhat reliably planned for with a 2-year override is 2 years. And you're right to think about the future, but like, I don't see how you look at the future and support it because of the structural problem. I just don't. I think you could run the numbers all you want, but I think that there's no way it would support it if you thought about it that way. So like, I guess the way I'm going to think about it is a little more hopeful, right? Like, and maybe that's naive, but more hopeful that like, you know, the whole state is dealing with these problems. So, right, like maybe the state will change something down the line, you know? I mean, like, do we make all these cuts now because we've seen this, you know, just to bring a non-numbers perspective, even though I am a numbers person, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't see how you could look at it past 2 years and be like, oh, we're good to go. Like, yeah, no, we won't have any problems. Like, of course we will. Like, the school department is growing at 4%, 4 to 5%. Like, it's not gonna be okay. But either we support it now, or we kick the can down the road longer, or we and hope for a miracle, you know? But like, we don't have control over so many things. Like, so it probably will be a personal, you know, decision.
Yeah, I don't know what other data points or information that we can generate, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you have an idea what that would be, let me know, or an analysis. There's another analysis that you think we should do. Let us know. But I think when you spend time with the spreadsheet and you go through these numbers, I think you'll understand how it all comes together. And how the math works. But the one thing I do think might be worth doing is, does it make sense to update a scenario for the 4-5?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that out. Well, in my head was updated tonight for the 459 because everything is functions in the sheet. So it'll be one change.
Yeah. And then whatever the appropriate town, you know, increase would be for a 459 budget. Yeah. I do think that's another, you know, we should have that information.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's why I did the 5 was that's what school committee adopted. So let's see what this does.
I will say that I think the 5 is their level service because they had like 3 years of this. They still, if you ask them, they still want to get back to what they were doing with the kindergarten, right?
Oh, sure.
That's their level service.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else? I did send around. Is there anything else that we want to talk about on this? Can I move on to the last agenda item? Okay. So the FAQs I sent around. Everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yep.
That's it.
We good? Okay. So the FAQs are there. What's the last? Oh, committee items. Oh, actually, no, before we get to that. Okay, so we need to take a little bit of time on this because we're running out of dates. The article, when we're going to listen to articles, right? We have other articles besides this budget, right? And so I sent around the dates. We have a lot of them.
We have so many of them.
Christina's been diligently working on the wording of the article. So next meeting, before next meeting, you'll have a draft. But we'll get a draft of everything. So the ones highlighted in yellow, I don't have a date for. We need to schedule them. Ashley, are you still there?
I am, and I have an update, Steve.
Okay.
Concom is working to be ready by March 10th.
March 10th, okay.
So I think we should schedule them for March 10th, and they are going to be putting forward an article for Danielson Pond. I'm still waiting on more information on that, but that's their goal. And then it sounds like, and Brent, maybe you've had conversations with Deb, but the private well article and the Conservation Trust Fund article will be likely pulled. She was going to give me confirmation today by 5, but I had not heard.
Once I already wrote.
I don't know.
Like killing me.
Okay, well, that's good. The fewer articles, the better.
I did talk to them for a while on the private one. And they did kind of indicate that after that conversation, you might want further thought. So
good.
I hadn't heard anything since, and I hadn't seen the actual text of it either. So
Yeah, well, it sounds like if they've agreed to drop it, then
We don't even need to carry it forward.
yeah, you don't need to look at the text. Yes.
The wells one,
Ashley,
they,
did you and I talk before March 10 about the Danielson Pond thing?
yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. How about the opt-in specialized energy code? Our wonderful.
yeah, I wrote to the people on the energy committee, but I have to admit that was just yesterday. So
Okay.
I'm trying to get a meeting. I've read them. A lot. It's like 100 pages.
I know. I can't believe.
Yeah,
The warrants.
The article's not 100.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. But don't we have to put the code in the warrant? Oh. Okay.
But I would imagine that you wanted to schedule that for, I asked if we could try to move this week. So if you wanted to schedule it for 10th.
Okay, well, if you hear otherwise, let me know, but I'll tentatively put them down for the 10th. How about
watching right now?
Huh?
Maybe they're watching right now.
Yeah,
Frankly, emailing me.
there's only 5 people left.
I'm sitting at home watching Ted Lasso, which is what I wish I was doing.
How about Castle Hill?
Yes.
Yes, what date?
No.
Yes, no.
I think we're on the 10th.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
oh, Castle Hill's the 10th. Okay.
Cancel the 10th. Because
I
had to
that
book
I
the-
just came to me.
Very good, Joe. All right, Jill, are you still with us?
I am.
Is the Baxter Park, is that,
We're gonna go for it.
you're moving forward? Okay. And
Okay.
when do you know when we, should we do
I'll
it when they come in, when Parks and Rec comes in, or can you cover?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I can cover it. Park and Rec is, select board is taking this from Parks and Rec.
Okay, so we'll do
Oh,
it
okay.
March 10th then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to, I don't have to reach out to Katie or Commission or anything on that one?
Sounds like it's
No.
gonna be.
Yeah, they're more than happy to give this piece of property up.
Okay, I'll let it be. That's
All
for
right.
sure.
So there's still 2 other articles there for the select board that I'm gonna reduce the town meeting and change in the local election. That's supposed to be March 10th.
I can do whatever day you want.
We're supposed to be meeting before the talk.
We're all getting punchy.
I just came off school, but
I know.
I'm starting the rest of the year. Yeah.
Nice.
Would I meet with you about the specialization, the specialized stabilization fund for the state hospital redevelopment mitigation payment?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna email you Thursday about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna email you now so I can hop the line.
Well, I don't have, I'm good till March 24th, so
You guys.
I was gonna email you Thursday.
Yeah.
Can we,
It's 8 days.
can we bypass the committee updates?
We sure can,
Okay.
with pleasure.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All right, let's just vote quickly here.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
And Jill,
Yes,
thank you. Have a good evening. I hope
Thank you
guys
all.
feel better.
thank you.